Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. This meeting is being held in accordance with the public laws of 1975, Chapter 231, and adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice sent to the Asbury Park Press, Two River Times, and Star Ledger, and posted in the main lobby of the municipal building and on the municipal website. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Roll call.
Councilmember Jackson,
Here.
Councilmember Morandi,
Here.
Councilmember Sturdivant,
Present.
Councilmember Trigiano,
Here.
Councilmember Ballard,
Here.
and Councilmember Ziprich. You have a quorum, sir.
I have a bunch of proclamations, so let's get started on them. First one is a proclamation from the Borough of Red Bank for Administrative Professionals Week. Whereas the last full week of April is Administrative Professionals Week, of which every Wednesday of that week is Administrative Professionals Day, recognizing the important contributions that administrative professionals make each year to our workplace. And whereas administrative professionals play an essential role in coordinating the office operations of government, educational institutions, businesses, and other organizations. And whereas the work of administrative professionals requires advanced knowledge and expertise in communications, computer software, office technology, project management, organization, customer service, and other vital office management responsibilities. And whereas administrative professionals are critical to the daily operation of municipal departments and offices in providing excellence and service to our diverse community. And whereas administrative professionals are the borough's primary customer care agents. Often they are the first and only interaction with our community. These encounters and the direct services provided may leave the general public with lasting impressions of government works and services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, on behalf of the Red Bank Borough Council, will hereby proclaim April 23rd to the 29th, 2023 as Administrative Professionals Week and April 26th, 2023 as Administrative Professionals Day in the Borough of Red Bank. We recognize and celebrate the essential role administrative professionals play in our community. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this 12th day of April, 2023. Second.
Oh.
All right, next we have a proclamation from the Borough of Red Bank to honor the Electrical Inspector of the Year. Whereas in March 2023, the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Education Unit announced 2023 Code Enforcement Professionals of the Year. And whereas the selected individuals are selected by their associations for making great contributions in their field and will be honored at the 2023 Building Safety Conference of New Jersey on May 4th, 2023. And whereas Electrical Inspector of the Year nominations were reviewed by the Municipal Electrical Inspectors Association, the Red Bank Fire and Electrical Subcode Inspector, Mr. John Drucker was chosen as the 2023 recipient. And whereas a dedicated and committed employee of Red Bank since 2002, John is known by his peers as a go-to person and is often commended for his attention to detail and experience. And whereas the borough is extremely grateful for the proficiency shown by Mr. John Drucker on behalf of the Borough of Red Bank, John demonstrates daily that our employees are our greatest asset, and he is wholly deserving of the recognition provided by the Electrical Inspector of the Year Award. Now, therefore, be resolved that I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, on behalf of the Red Bank Borough Council, do hereby congratulate Mr. John Drucker on receiving the Electrical Inspector of the Year Award for his role as the Red Bank Electrical Subcode Inspector. In witness whereof, I appear unto set my hand this 12th day of April, 2023. All right, next is a proclamation from the Borough of Red Bank for Jazz Appreciation Month. Whereas jazz is an original American art form that affirms the noblest aspiration of our national character, individual discipline, perseverance, and innovation. And whereas jazz has produced some of America's leading creative artists, ranks as one of America's greatest exports to the world, and has inspired dancers, choreographers, poets, novelists, filmmakers, classical composers, and musicians, and many other kinds of music. And whereas we honor and recognize the outstanding work that all jazz artists, educators, and enthusiasts present. And whereas jazz has spoken eloquently for freedom of people in the United States and abroad, and has become an international language that bridges differences and brings people of all races, ages, and backgrounds together. And whereas Red Bank has a deep connection to jazz as the birthplace of William Count Basie, as the home of two nonprofit organizations that honor jazz in programming and education. The Count Basie Theater, which presents performances by some of the great names in jazz today, like Diana Krall and the Wynton Marsalis, and the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and Jazz Arts Project, which curates and presents world-class jazz events such as the annual Summer Jazz Cafe at Two River Theater and various jazz music education programs for area youth. And whereas the Borough of Red Bank also offers events focusing on jazz music with two park series curated and presented by Jazz Arts Project, the annual Jazz in the Park series, and the Count Basie 365 concerts held in Johnny Jazz Gata Park. And whereas the month of April 2023 has been designated as Jazz Appreciation Month, or JAM. Now, therefore, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Jazz Appreciation Month in the Borough of Red Bank, and urge our residents to become involved in a local jazz society, enjoy the arts and music programs offered in our borough, and to celebrate the month of April as Jazz Appreciation Month. In witness whereof I appear unto set my hand this 12th day of April, 2023. He's involved, right? Congratulations for loving jazz. Very much. And anyone take it? No one cares. Okay.
Wait, hold on.
I'll take it, Joey. I'll take it.
That's Arts Project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have a proclamation from the Borough of Red Bank for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is a solution that requires involvement among people throughout the community. And whereas child maltreatment can occur when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and not knowing how to cope. And whereas many child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that can be preventable in an engaged and supportive community. And whereas all citizens should become involved in supporting families and raising their children in a safe, nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among social service agencies, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And now, therefore, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, do hereby proclaim April 2023 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. In witness whereof, I appear unto set my hand this 12th day of April, 2023. And we have one final proclamation that was added late to the agenda. Proclamation from the Borough of Red Bank for National Autism Acceptance Month. Whereas Autism Acceptance Month, previously named Autism Awareness Month in April, aims to celebrate and promote acceptance for the condition that occurs in 1 in every 54 children as of 2020 in the United States. And whereas autism, a complex developmental condition affecting the patient's ability to interact, communicate, and progress, has not one but many subtypes. First held in the year 1972 by the Autism Society, Autism Acceptance Month emphasizes the need for public awareness to promote acceptance, celebrate the differences, and be more inclusive toward autistic individuals around us. And whereas every April, the Autism Society works to build an inclusive community where autistic individuals are embraced and supported to achieve the highest quality of life possible. And whereas the Autism Society was founded in 1965 by Bernard Rimland, it is driven by the fact that autism is the fastest growing developmental disability in the world. The Autism Society hosted one of its first nationwide efforts of an awareness campaign called National Autistic Children's Week in 1972, which subsequently evolved into the Autism Awareness Month earmarked in April. And whereas in 2021, Autism Awareness Month was renamed Autism Acceptance Month to foster acceptance and ignite changes. The Autism Society deeply understands the need to foster awareness and acceptance to ignite change and a healthier lifestyle through improved opportunities for people with autism. The organization caters to more than 600,000 people living under the autism onslaught, using tools like community partnerships with organizations, digital and print resources, along with events and referrals to spark empathy and inclusivity. And whereas with the autism diagnosis rate increasing fast, we take these 30 days of April to celebrate the differences, learn about, and empower autistic individuals. Now, therefore, I, William Portman, Mayor of the Borough of Red Bank, proclaim that the Borough of Red Bank does hereby join the nation in recognizing April 2023 as National Autism Acceptance Month as a symbol of our community to create a culture of disability awareness and inclusion for all members of our community. In witness whereof, I'm hereunto set my hand this 12th day of April, 2023. Now we're going to go to the introduction of the municipal budget. This is an introduction only. The budget hearing will be May 10th at 6:30. So first up, we're going to have, excuse me 1 second. So is that not happening now, or is that happening May 10th?
You're introducing the budget, so.
Right. Okay, yeah. Okay, so is there a motion to, well, first we need a motion to introduce and then a motion of public hearing, or?
Just motion to introduce.
Okay, so can I have a motion to introduce the 2023 municipal budget?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Sturdivant,
Yes.
Councilmember Tridiano,
No.
Councilmember Ballard,
I abstain.
You abstain?
and Councilmember Ziprich.
I'm sorry. A little confused. I wanted to give the opportunity to the fire department to speak before we vote. Is that appropriate, Mayor?
that's what I was trying to get clarification from. What's that?
Check.
Yeah, we
Check with the verge.
check with Dan.
Voted.
What's that?
We just voted.
Right. Dan, what is the procedure on when we're introducing the budget? Do we normally hear from public comment before the budget's introduced, or?
Sure, it's my understanding, Mayor, that I guess you would make a motion to introduce the budget. And then there has to be a public hearing. And I'm just looking at the agenda real quick.
I know we have.
So
No.
it's just being introduced this evening, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, then it would just follow like any other resolution, members of the public will get an opportunity to comment on agenda items only and then comment at the end. When you go for final adoption, there has to be a public hearing at that time. And then obviously members of the public could comment at that time.
Okay. So,
We just-
And I'm looking at the agenda and the clerk has down here, the public hearing would be May 10th of 23.
so proper procedure for an introduction was followed. We voted on it.
Correct.
So now I don't know though.
Is a roll call?
We did it wrong.
Dan, we did a roll call. I have 2 abstentions. I have a nay. I have 3 ayes. So assuming the abstentions are no votes, does that mean the mayor has to break the tie?
The abstentions are not a no vote. So if you have 3 yeses, 2 abstentions and 1 no, it passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Mayor. Obviously, there are a ton of fire people here who wanted to speak on the budget. We know this because we received correspondence from them. And because of the layout of the agenda, you know, everybody here will be able to comment on all the resolutions below before we take an en masse vote. So no one got to speak about the introduction of the budget. And that was the only reason I hesitated at first, abstained, which is actually not proper because I seconded the motion. Because I wanted to give the fire department a chance to express their thoughts and opinions before we took the vote.
I understand that. That's why I asked for that clarification even before the meeting. And I think we worked out that they will have time to be speaking. The public comment is the time when they would be given to speak.
Okay.
If I could
I'm
just
sorry.
add to- if I could just add too, it's an introduction, right? So if there are comments from members of the fire department or other individuals on the budget, obviously, you know, they will all have an opportunity to be heard. Final adoption is not until May 10th, at which time any changes to the budget can be made. So this is just really procedural only. It's just an introduction. It's not binding because obviously there's a final adoption. And generally there are changes from the time of introduction to the time that the budget is finally adopted. There's usually changes anyhow.
Mayor, permission to speak?
Yes.
Is the CFO available for questions?
No, he's not.
Okay. I'm under the impression that once a budget is introduced, it can only be amended. This line of the budget can only be amended upwards of 10% by the law. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I request a suspension of the regular order of business.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear you.
Comment is next.
So this is possible to request a suspension of the regular order of business.
Public comment is next.
The next agenda item is public comment, so I'm literally about to open up the floor for public comment and then, right. Okay.
But Mayor, if I may, before we do that, I'd like to go out of order and introduce resolution 2398, making the appointment Director of Public Utilities, if we may.
Sure, I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, I'm getting the feeling that this is going to be a long meeting, and
Right.
since we have a celebratory appointment,
I have no problem with doing that, and then we'll do the public comment.
All right.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, one more point of order. Again, going back to the budget introduction, because I seconded it, I could not abstain. My vote has to be a yes. So I'd like to change the record to a yes vote for introduction.
I'd ask the borough attorney for clarification on that.
So the vote was 3, 2 abstentions and 1 no vote, correct?
Right, but the council president's question is, because he seconded the motion to take the vote, does he have to change his vote?
Well, if he seconded the motion, his vote at that time could be a yes, could be a no, or an abstention. Just because he seconded it doesn't mean he had to vote yes or no for it.
Okay, we'll leave the record as is, just for clarity.
Okay, so, very quickly, can I have a motion to introduce, I'll see here, 23-98, point Director of Public Utilities?
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was easy, Terrence, huh? Okay.
I'd just like to say this is a very humbling experience. Just real quick, without taking anybody's too much time. I was raised in this town. I have a passion for this town. I've been working in public works for 15 years now. I'm going to keep on doing what I've been doing for the last 15 years, and serving the residents of Red Bank. Thank you.
If I may make a comment. Congratulations, Mr. Walton. It's wonderful that somebody who's worked their way up the ranks has been recommended to take the helm with the Department of Public Utilities. And I'm sure my colleagues wish you every success, and we will help in every way possible to ensure your success. Mr. Watson says of Terrence in his recommendation that he is the right person for the job because he will restore organization and effectiveness to the department. He brings with him a discipline and leadership skills that will provide the staff with clear understanding and direction of what is expected and how to perform their duties for the benefit of the residents and the businesses of Red Bank Borough. So congratulations, Terrence, and thank you.
Okay, we're gonna open up for public comment. Let me remind everyone that public comment at this point is for agenda items only. I'm gonna ask that you keep your comments to 5 minutes or less and only speak once. And let's all work together nicely, shall we? All right. Yes.
I appreciate the chance to speak here, and I also appreciate the confusion.
Closer.
Sit down.
I just want you to sit so we can hear you right in the microphone.
All right.
People on Zoom.
My brothers are standing and sisters. My name is Stuart Jensen. I reside at 36 Vista Drive in Little Silver. I'm a former resident of Red Bank, and I still own and operate a few rental properties here in Red Bank. It makes me one of the notorious out-of-town landlords. But I'll still speak in good faith. I'm an ex-chief of the department. I'm currently the treasurer of the Hook and Ladder Company, as well as treasurer for the department's executive council, which is the administrative arm of the department. Behind me, you see several members of the department, many of which have much more distinguished careers and service in the town than do I. And they're all very concerned and frustrated with the fire department's budget put forth by the council. I'm here to make the council at large and the general public aware of the discussions and the perceived agreement that we reached with the finance committee regarding two subjects last year regarding firehouse rent and new member recruiting. The department began these discussions with the council on these subjects in October before the budget process even started. Many might not be aware, but all of the firehouses in town are owned and operated by separate, privately owned nonprofit companies. There were two houses previously owned and maintained by the town, but they fell into disrepair and were ultimately sold, with the revenue serving to offset shortages in the general fund at the time. These firehouses, like the department, are dedicated to serving the community. In addition to parking for fire department vehicles, these houses provide storage of department equipment and supplies. They host an emergency radio control center for use in case the dispatch center at Borough Hall here ever goes down, or if we have a large-scale emergency and we need additional communications. They also serve as meeting rooms for the department, emergency shelters for firefighters on duty and the general public in the event of a regional emergency such as hurricanes, snowstorms, and long-term power outages. Best example, of course, is Sandy. I hate to keep making that back, but we had people living in the firehouse for a time. So we had generators running. We had the only Wi-Fi available to residents. We did that for quite some time. Not to mention they serve as voting locations for this upcoming May event. I wish all of you good luck in that. Before I use up all my time, let me get to the point. The only source of income for operating and upkeep of these buildings, of these facilities, is rent from the borough. No other part of the fire department budget pays for any of these building expenses. They don't pay for paint, they don't pay for supplies, they don't pay for repairs. They just pay rent. That's one line item for each firehouse. The town pays approximately $10,000 annually for a building dedicated to their equipment. let's say it's 2,500 square feet of space for about $875 a month. If that's the rent I got from our residences, I'd be in the poorhouse now. If we were to go back to rents from the year 2000 and increase it strictly by inflation adjustments, cost of living adjustments, those rents would be at $19,000 a year or more. And that doesn't address the increasing utility of these buildings and the work we've been putting into them as far as capital improvements. Our personal firehouse, the Hook and Ladder, is 150 years old, 1873. Okay, that takes maintenance. It has old structure, it has roofs that need repair, etc. The town doesn't maintain these buildings, as I said, the independent companies do. Insurance coverage alone, property and casualty on these buildings ranges from $4,000 to $7,000 a year, which is 40 to 70% of our rent. It doesn't even comprehend the capital expenses, the roofs, the HVAC, the paint and the lighting. The garage floors are epoxy. They cost about $18,000 to install. The Hook and Ladder is looking at roof replacement in excess of $30,000. West Side Hose just did their roof, and Union Hose is looking at $10,000 in improvements for interior updates to their own building. Let me just say I'm running out of time, and I'm sorry. The point is this: a fair rent is what these companies need. We have real expenses, they're all going up. We had an agreement we thought last year, and it's been stricken from the budget. We really request that they return that to the budget at the amount agreed upon last year for $18,000. It is not an excessive expense. It's really a drop in the bucket. Other expenses for leases and rentals of rooms, land around the borough have exceeded that by far. And we're working as one of the largest and longest standing volunteer organizations providing an essential service to this town. And we frankly need the money. We spend way too much time fundraising, way too much time scraping, way too much time working and repairing and cleaning our own firehouses just to provide a service to the town. We need the money. It's not a big amount for anybody here, and it really is what these members behind me deserve for the work they put in. Thank you.
So I just had a quick question. You mentioned 18,000 a year. Is that the request for each firehouse or company?
For each firehouse. And there's one exception because one one building houses two departments. That's what's 18,000 for each owned house, privately owned house, and then 4,500 for the two fire companies that occupy that last house that is a shared unit. And that, by the way, was more savings for the borough. That was the result of the consolidation of those two closed firehouses. And if you think about the maintenance expenses that came out of those buildings, because they were, again, 120 years old, 140 years old. We got rid of those things. I hate to say it that way. We gave up those buildings, the town released them, and the savings basically go back to consolidating them into the first aid building, which now has two fire companies, some marine unit vehicles, the laundry for the fire department gear that gets the chemicals on it that nobody can do at home or in a public place. It's a shared building. So that's the numbers there. Thank you. Thank you very much, really, for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Wayne Hartman. I'm the current fire chief, Red Bank Fire Department. I've been a member of this fine organization since 1984 and have served as chief of the department 1995, 2019, and again this year. My thoughts and concerns are reflected in what just read by ex-chief Jensen. I just want to add a few thoughts of my own. We are here tonight to ask for a review and increase of our annual operating budget. Since last summer, we've been in meetings with the business administrator, the Borough Finance Committee to prepare for this budget and our needed increases. The majority of the increase is what we commonly refer to as rent. This is the part of the budget that helps each separate fire station pay for repairs, upkeep, insurances, bills, household supplies, etc. I grew up in this department, so to speak, in one of the 3 borough-owned fire stations which no longer exist. One of the main reasons for this is over the years, they fell in such a state of disrepair, they were no longer cost efficient to repair. So the borough decided to close them and sell them off. The remaining 4 fire stations are owned by the individual fire companies, and we're trying to keep these operable and in good condition so we can keep providing the outstanding fire service, emergency services that we continue to provide the borough. It appears one of the main sticking points was not as much the dollar value of the increases, but the perception and accountability of the monies that would be going out. While I respect the opinions of the finance office and the council persons involved, I would like to remind them that we have been here performing our services to the borough, its residents and business owners for over 150 years. Folks, we are not going anyplace. In closing, I ask the council members not to approve the budget as presented tonight, but to look into our request and approve the fire department budget that was originally sent in by myself. Thank you.
Anyone else with public comment?
Mayor, I just had another question from somebody from the fire department. Still Wayne, anyone?
You can ask me.
So will this be the new yearly rent, the 18,000 that was asked for? Because I believe presently it's 10.5 per company. So would this be the new annual request?
Councilman Ballard, you had multiple private meetings with the department and all of this was discussed. So I don't understand the lack of understanding what's being requested now. This does not come out of nowhere. A department just doesn't show up in force like this unless there's a major issue. There were multiple meetings held with yourself, with Councilwoman Randy, expressing the needs of this department. Correct. I actually set up the December meeting,
Right.
making sure that everybody understood the needs of this department. And I've obviously had their back 100% the whole time. I emailed you as recently as Saturday and I said, would you please reconsider? Because I knew the brevity, the severity of this situation and how the department was feeling. That being said, yes, why would you increase something one year and then the next year go back on that increase? It's a starting point. They're asking for a reasonable increase and they're asking that to happen this year. Now, obviously, the budget's been introduced, so legally, you can now only increase by 10%.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Go for it.
We just, our borough attorney, Dan Antonelli, just let us know that because this is a finance related issue, we have to have a 2/3 majority of votes, so we have to retake that vote, the vote.
Yeah, because it's the introduction of the budget.
What's
Yeah,
that?
It has to be a majority vote. Yeah, because it's the introduction of the
I
budget.
was mistaken. 2/3, not 2/3, a majority of the full council. So it's not 2/3. Majority of the full council is required to introduce the budget. I was mistaken and thought it was just on final adoption, but is actually on intro and any amendment as well that would carry through.
So anyways, yes, I think what they're requesting is to start there, but obviously the next year, they wouldn't expect their rent to suddenly go down from that point. It would either remain at that point or there would be continuing communication and conversation about cost of maintenance or about what's a proper rent based on inflation. Like I thought the numbers that Stu presented were very useful. talking about how the last time there was a rent increase was around the year 2000. And that if just on inflation alone, that the numbers they're requesting would be in line of what's appropriate.
Thank you for that. But one quick point of order, since the attorney brought it up. So did the intro vote fail because it didn't get 2/3? We don't have to re-vote, it just failed, right?
That is correct. It failed.
Thank you. And just to follow up, thank you for that answer. Only me, you, and Councilwoman Morandi were privy and the business administrator for those discussions in that committee that you're a part of. So we have 3 council people and the mayor who weren't. So my question was more informative for them. So because they have to weigh in on this and they need to be informed as well. But I just like to say, you know, I am so sorry that over these many years that the fire department has not been given the amount of money they needed year over year, so that we've gotten to this point where it's come to critical mass and we have to do a very large increase. So whatever happened prior to me being on the council or over the last couple of years through the fire department or through the finance committee when I wasn't a part of it, you know, I deeply apologize to you and I want to do the right thing for the fire department. I appreciate anybody who will run into a burning building when I'm trying to get out of it.
Mayor,
Thank you.
permission to speak.
As soon as I'm done, thank you.
Go ahead.
So while I understand that there's a large increase asked at this one time, the fact that it has accumulated to this point, at this point in time, is very disheartening to me. We should have been attacking this issue for years before instead of right now. So
Councilman Ballard, you made the decision to not give this department their full funding. You and Councilwoman Morandi are the 2 members of that committee. You made that decision. You made the decision to not give them their full funding. And this isn't the first time. You fought against me on acquiring 2 apparatus that were over 10 years overdue. You tried to cut the money for the tires for the fire trucks when we went through the budget one time. This isn't a new thing to sit here and say that you now have a concern when you, and you're right, the other council people did not know, but you and Councilwoman Morandi are the 2 people who made the decision to not give the department their full ask. And let's make this clear. This is not a big number. You know, obviously I care about this very much. I am a volunteer firefighter and I really understand the need and what's going on here. I wear 2 hats, but let's be real. What was the total increase being asked?
So
It was less than the cost of a cop car.
Ms. Chief Jensen made the point of saying since 2000, if the rent had been increased appropriately, it would be at $1,900 a year. Hold on.
19,000.
19,000, I apologize. And I don't think me or Councilwoman Morandi were on the council in 2000 to do that. So to say that we are the only ones who stopped their increases is just patently false. Yes, we made a decision at this budget in 2023, but 2020, 2000 through 2012 was not me and Councilwoman Morandi. We are trying to fix the problem that private administrations have laid upon us.
It's very obvious what's going on here. And I know you're upset because decisions you made in the dark are coming to the light now, but you made these decisions. You made these decisions.
So can I speak?
I want to get it clear because there was a definite starting point and a timeline. And are you saying that I was responsible for all of that?
I think
No,
everybody here is smarter than you think they are.
no, they're smarter than you think you.
Can I speak? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Can I have the floor?
you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, we had a couple of meetings at the end of last year. The fire department asked to meet with myself and Darren. Then it expanded to other members and we met a few times. And they expressed their concerns over their ability to be able to maintain the 4 houses as well as staff the 5 hose companies. So we did have those discussions. They had asked for funding to do recruiting, and then they asked for an increase in the rent. I don't believe at that time we got an exact number. They talked about the capital repairs and that would need to be done on these buildings. And even at that time, we had expressed concerns over just giving funding for capital improvements on houses that the borough doesn't own. We had meetings this year and we spoke the same thing, which was the borough and the council, we want to help the fire department. So let's make that clear. And we made it clear in those meetings that we want to help them, but the mechanism in which to help them is not just to throw cash in the rent bucket. We said that we could come up with either backing loans and we would pay the notes. We talked about various methods. We talked about coming to council and have the council vote on making capital improvements on buildings that the borough doesn't own. That is not and should not be strictly a finance department decision, because we're taking taxpayer money and we're making improvements on buildings that we don't own. Now, I'm not saying that we do want to do it or we don't want to do it. We want to help the fire department. What we made clear was that was not the mechanism in which to help them, to just throw cash at the rent line. There was no transparency. We asked for a capital plan going forward. We asked for financials. We haven't gotten it. So, I mean, I think giving a 30% increase in rent with really no documentation, is generous, 75%. And we made it clear, yeah, it's not exactly the dollar amount. However, it's what it's being used for. And that needs to go in front of full council, not just the finance committee. Because there's bigger discussions that need to be had with the future government on what the fire department looks and how it operates in the future and what that relationship is. Can we maintain 4 houses? Do we need 4 houses? Do we need 5 companies? Do we combine because of staffing? I mean, there needs to be bigger discussions other than related to the budget.
Less than a cost of 1 cop car is what they asked for.
Kate, you don't understand. So then all the improvements are made and the money continues, but do you need the 4 houses? Even if we gave that money, they wouldn't even be able to do all the capital improvements because it's not enough of money. We offered to come to council and fund the improvements.
You're talking a lot, you're not saying much.
No, you just don't understand finance.
Well, I understand. I'm a fire.
No, you don't.
You're part of the
You don't.
department, and your department leadership asked you for something that was reasonable, less than a cost of 1 cop car, and you wouldn't give them that.
You don't understand, Kate. We said we would help them through a different mechanism, not just throwing cash at it, right? Throwing cash at the rent line that we can't go to the public and say what it's for. We would help with capital improvements through capital funding. There's a difference between operational expenses and capital.
Is that a question?
Mayor, if I do have a question for Councilwoman.
Yes.
Angela, you mentioned planning documents that you requested, and I think the other document that you asked for was the capital plan. Did you have an opportunity to review those?
No, we didn't get them. So that's why we went, I mean, it doesn't mean that the discussions have ended. It just means that we have to pass a budget. And we put a 30% increase in the rent line, but doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to have conversations about the capital needs of the buildings. And, and again, I think that needs to be something discussed with full council, not just the finance committee.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I want to respond to Mr. Ballard's question before about this is a one-time ongoing expense. I was about to express the same sentiments he did, that this is really a case of being really asleep at the wheel. To go this time without tracking with cost of living and expenses adjustments and not making that press back to the Borough Council. Shame on us for that. What we're looking for now is simply a reasonable, not even market-based, it's still below market, but a reasonable rent that allows us to cover our expenses and then accrue savings for capital operations like that. We're not asking for capital repairs on the buildings now. We can manage that. We've managed budgets for 100 years now. We're working on it better. We're also, as far as accountability, we're subject to regulation at the state and federal level. We have to file Form 990 tax returns for nonprofits. We have to maintain our registry with the state for being an operating nonprofit. We have, and we are subject to public review and accountability for how we spend our money. We've also shared those numbers with the Finance Committee last year. We're happy to do it anytime. We put together a budget every year and we do that. And we also do, again, accrue for upcoming capital expenses. Those who know me, I'm not looking to find fault with anybody. We're declining or turning down a number that they got presented with. All I'm here to do is to explain to all of you how important this increase is right now, this year. We've been taking small increases of late, $500 a year, for the last 2 or 3 years. It's still way behind what the rate should be and what we need. So, with all due respect, Councilperson Morandi, we're happy to share our numbers with you. I think we have. I think we're responsible individuals. We run these nonprofit companies. We manage a building, I dare say, better than the borough did for the other fire department buildings. We manage them well. We take care of them well. We've invested heavily in them, and we plan to continue to do that. I think it shows in the performance and just the image of these buildings. They're in good repair. We've kept them that way. We need to keep the money coming in, and we need to get back to a rate that we can work with and not basically be scraping every penny we have. That's all I'll say. And thank you.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
please step away, Mayor, if I may. One of the reasons I abstained is because I don't have a lot of information to go on. And I've exchanged emails with Alan Sutton Senior and Nick today. I got a copy of Alan's letter late last night after 11 o'clock, I think it was. I'm being asked to vote on something for you guys that I fully support your operations. I mean, you guys have been through my front door in an emergency. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of the members of the department. But you said that you shared your financials with the borough, and I guess the chief has those.
I believe it was each department shared a financial report. I'm sorry, each company, my mistake, sorry. Each company shared it. I don't believe we got the capital plan unless it went to Councilwoman Randy and not me.
Okay, so can we get all of that together and distribute it to the full council? So we all have an opportunity to go through the numbers and have a better understanding of what the men and women of the department need. And this way, I think normally what would happen is you meet in committee and you bring it back to the full council. For all of the years that I sat on the dais, when Art Murphy was the fire commissioner, he normally would present to all of the members what the department's needs were. At times, Councilman DuPont, who was the finance chair, would argue, tooth and nail over 1 red cent. And we would come to a consensus. And I think that's what we're looking to achieve right now on behalf of all of the members here, is that we have a budget that is satisfactory to them. I'm sure if we needed to get into a negotiation, there's a little give and take on both sides, which I've seen happen over the years. So I think that for all seven of us sitting up here having to make this decision, it's critical that we have the full information from the department and all of the houses so that we can make an educated decision. And thank you, Stu.
When do we need it in time to make a difference for this budget? When do you need it?
I'm not sure, Dan, I mean, if we need a majority, the budget introduction did not pass, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So you need a majority of the full membership of council.
So what
it's
happens?
four.
What happens from our perspective? I know the CFO told me that by law, we had to be introducing the budget by
Right.
today at latest.
So, sure. So procedurally, what would have to happen is a motion to reconsider would have to be made. A motion to reconsider the vote on the budget would have to be made. That motion could only be made by a person who voted in favor of the adoption of the budget. So the three individuals who voted in favor of the introduction of the budget would be permitted to make that motion. And then obviously a second, once that motion to reconsider, assuming it passes, and that would just be by a majority vote, then a motion to introduce the budget could be made. And then obviously a second, a roll call, and then you would obviously need 4 votes in order for the budget to be introduced.
Thank you.
When?
I guess my question for you is, if that's not gonna happen tonight, I'm assuming, I'm assuming after, the entire council sat here and looked all of these volunteers in the eye, I can't imagine if we took another vote, if the budget would pass. So where does that leave us going forward? What does it leave us a window to reconsider the budgetary needs of the departments here? Do we have to do it at the next meeting? Where are we at?
So Mayor, I could tell you, I don't have the answer to that question. I can tell you that the state, we're already late with the budget, but that's not because of anything Red Bank did. The state always puts its numbers out later anyhow. So I don't see this as any sort of, procedural nightmare. If the budget is not introduced this evening, I'll work with the chief and the CFO to make sure we get it back on track, to make sure obviously we're in compliance with any of the rules of the state and the procedures. But if it stays the way it is, then so be it. Wouldn't be the first time a budget fails on introduction for a municipality, and then it could be reintroduced at some future date and time.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So Dan, in good faith, we introduced the budget tonight. It failed. So at the next meeting, we can reintroduce it. And if it needs to be modified is there enough time to make those modifications between now and the next meeting in order to achieve the objective and reintroduce?
I mean, I would probably defer to the chief. I mean, obviously, I don't get involved in the nuts and bolts of the budget. I would think that there'd be enough time to make any changes, but again, I'll defer to the chief on that, and obviously the CFO.
Assuming we got direction from the council, we would be able to make the changes relatively quickly. We know the numbers that were requested by the fire department. We know where we sit right now, so it wouldn't be a heavy lift as far as timing to make any changes that the council wants.
So if we can get the numbers that we spoke about earlier out to the full council, we can have an educated decision for the next council meeting and reintroduce.
Assuming the fire department can get us the remaining numbers, within the next, hopefully several days, I would assume.
What remaining numbers do you need? There was
I
a
believe
budget.
there was a capital plan that we're.
No, they proposed their budget and the budget was not given. There's no numbers that are missing. Every meeting took place. The chief submitted his budget request and they were given a percentage of that request. The department, there's no need for the department to have to submit anything else. The budget is not about capital improvement projects. The budget.
I haven't seen any of those numbers, Councilwoman.
Right, but I'm not saying that you did or didn't. I'm saying that
I
the
don't think
department doesn't have anything else that they need to provide.
When we had our last meeting, they were gonna provide each company's financials from the treasurer that they file, and they were gonna give us a look forward 2 or 3 year capital plan of where the capital improvements needed to be. We talked about HVAC, we talked about roofs,
$60,000.
again.
This is less than we gave the
Yeah,
DPW for
but
three snow
this-
removal devices.
This is what you don't understand, and what I kind of don't understand is that if the borough is willing to take on the capital improvements of the houses, then they can get done now. I don't really understand the urgency on the cash, because that doesn't help them in getting projects done this year. Whereas we could actually help them get these projects done. So
This is not what the chiefs have been telling you over and over again.
You're not-
Their needs, and you're not listening to them.
no, I am listening. I'm listening to them, and
You're not.
they're
You're
asking for an
saying something
increase.
completely different than what they're telling you.
They're asking for an increase in rent so
Correct.
that they could, let me finish, so that they could save to do these improvements. What we had offered was, we can fund the improvements and you could do them now if council agrees.
Can I-
So it's actually a better thing for them.
We go back to public comment, I guess.
Sorry, I don't mean to take up this thing. Can I just comment on that issue? As I mentioned before, and I'm not joking this time, I am a landlord of several properties here in town. I'm not the borough. I seem to understand that if we wanted to build a new firehouse in town, if the borough wanted to build a new firehouse in town, they could not save the money from every year's excess in the budget and put it away, put it aside, and then have enough money saved up and build that building out of their own reserves. Because that would violate some sort of principle that only the people living in that, receive that benefit in the town can be paying for. So you can't have people today paying for something the town's gonna do tomorrow. Okay, as a private company, we can do that, and that's why we do that. We save our money, we keep reserves. So in the event of a rainy day or storm or hurricane or flood, we've got some cash reserves to use to make repairs, improvements, and even capital improvements to the buildings as they accrue. And that's what I do with my rental properties. I save money from those rentals so that I can put a new roof on it 10 years. So I can put, I just put a new sewer line in on Bank Street. You'll see that. So that's the way we operate as a private company. And it's worked well for us. All we're asking for, again, is a reasonable rent so that we can operate as a reasonable business, responsible business, accountable to the state, federal, and any borough council person that wants to see our books. I think we provided in the fall. We're happy to do it again if it'll expedite this process. And the last thing I want to say, and I'll get out of you guys here, because I think Ed called it, it's going to be a long meeting. Didn't want that to happen. I wanted to speak for 5 minutes and let you guys go on and think about it. But Ed, this $18,000 figure that I put together, it was the result of negotiations. It wasn't our initial ask. Our initial ask was 30% higher than that. So we came down. Okay, I hope you guys can review this. We're happy to give you anything you need by, let's say, Monday. And hopefully we can get our information shared to anybody who wants to see it in time for your next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stu.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
If I may, for 1 minute.
yeah, I'm sorry, Nick, still before you walk away, you always want to walk away.
I know.
Again, I want to apologize for the years and years of neglect. You put it on the fire department, it's not entirely on the fire department. It's up to council members, whether it's me, whether it's Councilwoman Brandy, Triviano, and anybody prior, to be wary of what you guys are doing and support you in any way they can.
Yeah.
I think annual increases are important. But I'd just like to say for all the firemen here, I appreciate you being here, but one of the things that were asked at those initial finance meetings was to have this kind of public conversation so that all the council would know what we know. It didn't need to be me and Councilwoman Morandi making a decision. We wanted everybody to hear it and everybody to understand what you provide. This could have been taken care of in February if we would have had that public meeting that we asked for. So I'm happy to have it now. And I support you guys in every way. And I'm looking forward to you coming back and us coming to a solution.
And just let me say, I personally, and I don't think anybody behind me came here to put the target on anybody. We just wanted to get the information out there and make a very strong appeal for what we need. So thank you all again. Can I go now?
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys all for showing up too. This is what makes the whole system work when you're present and participating. So thank you all.
If I may, Mayor, just a minute.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit under the weather. Nick Ferraro, 117 Harding Road, ex-chief of the Red Bank Fire Department. So what we did provide late last year to Councilwoman Morandi, as well as Councilman Ballard and Councilwoman Trigiano, as well as Darren McConnell, was a list of each company of both past, present, and future large projects and the amounts that have been spent over those years. On the low end, it was roughly $24,000 for a year. On the high end, other companies were doing over $40,000. And we gave a few years in the past and we gave forecasted for the future. And that's what helped to solidify the reasoning for increasing the rents. Because in order to take up that deficit, volunteers needed to put out more volunteer hours to fundraise, just to make sure that that roof that fell in was able to be replaced because we had money in our coffers. So while Councilman Morandi put out a possibility of taking out loans and then the borough voting on taking on that debt for the department, while creative, didn't seem to work out very well in our minds. One, because councils can change. Number two is because that also adds a timeline that if a roof does cave in, us with our own money cannot take care of tomorrow. If we have to apply for a loan, we have to get approved for that loan. Now we need to sit before the borough. Now we need to have the borough to approve it just to start putting people in motion to make an emergency repair on a building that provides an emergency service to this town for a very small amount. We are free. Not a single one of us gets paid. The money that goes into our department is to simply upkeep the department itself, the apparatus, the equipment, and the firehouses that we reside in. We use a very small portion of the money that this department offers, that this borough offers for the upkeep. Every single other cent is raised by these volunteers behind me that hold booths, that put up concerts and get creative with events just to try to get a few dollars into the house. Now that money gets divvied up and nobody goes out and has beggars. What we do is we take that money and we put it back into the house for the repairs that are necessary. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think an important point to note too is as we sit here and we debate and discuss over whether you should get an extra 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000. If we do not enable and support this volunteer fire department from existing and protecting all of us, we're going to end up paying for a professional fire department, and that's going to cost us about $3 to $5 million every year. So this is not to be the enemy of the office. Okay. Yes, Nancy. Another topic, please.
I'll try. Hi, my name is Nancy Blackwood, 34 Chestnut Street. Mayor, I'd like to thank you for making the statement of the cost of if we did not have a volunteer fire department, because that was one of the points I was going to bring up. But I was thinking the number was between $3 and $4 million. And what they're asking for seems to be less than 5% of that budget. And by having a volunteer fire department, the borough is actually saving 95% of the cost if we had a full-time hired fire department. Okay, so I'm off that. One other comment I would like to make is, there's a lot of talk about what goes on in subcommittees, and I think it would be helpful as the subcommittee meets, that they do give a proper readout of, what the issues are, because as I sat here, I saw like some people had some information, other people didn't have, as much. So I think it would be healthy to have a readout, and I did not mean to use the word healthy. I apologize for that. Next thing I want to go into is the ordinance for the Cannabis Review Board. And I believe that one of the things that would be helpful is if you add into the ordinance a process flow chart, so you could visually see what is the process that someone would have to do to go through the Cannabis Review Board. I think that would be very helpful. And the other issue I have is, will there be, last year, I believe there was a really good reading of the budget. Is that something that's going to happen again this year? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, where they did a whole, that's great. And my fifth question, I'm trying to be really quick, is on resolution 23-108, which has putting part of the senior center on the Rossi. I didn't see it in the council packet. Is that still on the agenda?
There now.
Okay,
So that was a little misnomer, because the resolution wasn't actually to put it on the Rossi. That's the second step. The first step was our engineer had drawn up plans to bifurcate the lot so that we could designate one part as a park area. And then once that was sent to the planning board and accepted, then we would go and make the application to the county or the county to put that portion on the Rossi. So, but to answer your question, I don't think any of that is gonna happen tonight, because
Okay.
I don't think Ed's on the line to explain the very complex engineering drawing
so
that he came up with.
that resolution does not sit on this agenda for tonight.
No, I mean,
Okay,
whatever it is, I'm gonna ask that at the talk. We can't even discuss it. We don't have the information.
right, there's a fire. And one more question to that. How much space are you really talking about when you're bifurcating that lot? I mean, are we talking about 5 acres, 10 acres, half an acre, quarter acre? You know, do you know?
That's why we need the engineer.
Okay.
Because I don't understand all the little numbers and drawings and
Mhm.
lines, so.
Well, that's all I have. So just with me nice tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's go by Cedar Street, and I'm not speaking on behalf of any board or committee I'm a part of it. I appreciate the firemen and everything they do, and fire people. They come to my house because I am a horrible cook, and they helped out. Thank you. And my wife, thank you. Hearing everybody speak tonight about what happened, let's keep in mind, the library is in the same situation. The library building is not owned by the town, but the town helps maintain it. And it's dead, and it's kind of deja vu, right? When the senior center wasn't maintained, look what happened. You hear about the DPU situations and employees working out of trailers. Look what happened. It seems like we kind of keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. And I do agree, as I heard the first conversation about, oh yeah, we could do what we did with the library. We got a bond for the library to fix the elevator that's still not working, and we do have leaks in the roof. But to their point, getting more information, which is great to have this conversation so everybody can be a part of the dialogue. It was a pain in the butt to get the signatures, to get the bond through the process. It took at least a good month or two. And again, we've had water coming from the roof into the elevator, and it's still not working. You know, as we all pointed out, government is slow. It is slow. I've seen it. My second point, and here's a good example of collaboration. I've mentioned over the years, and I'll talk about transparency. Why are committee meeting reports not always operable? Some of them are not operable. Some of them also, they don't hand them in. So I propose that all the committee meetings are operable. I know the Animal Welfare Committee does minutes. I don't see it online anywhere. And I also would love to have the ability somewhere on the website just to show attendance. There's people that are appointed to these committees that don't even show up. So that would be great, because in long term, I would love to see a formal process of being appointed to committees. I got appointed to the library trustee board. I didn't even ask to be on it. I just got a call from someone. I enjoy it. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying to have a formal process would be good. So thank you for the time, and thank you everyone who runs the thing about fire.
So I just have one quick question for you. You've been on the Board of Education for a gazillion years at this point. Your committee meetings, your subcommittee meetings, are there minutes that are operable?
Anything except just like you guys, if it's not contractor lawyers or about personnel, like the executive committee meetings. But yes, we do finance committee meetings. You can grab that. We do public relations committee meetings. They're all minutes. Anyone can read it. We always hand them in. And so we sign most of them.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hammond.
Stephen Heck, 135 Branch Avenue. I'm going to ask some questions about the library. And although I am, like Suzanne, a trustee of the library, I am not at this point speaking for the library. And I wanted to specifically talk about and get some further information about ordinance numbers 2023-10 and 2023-11. They have to do with the easements for both construction and maintenance going forward. So number 10 addresses the issue of access and maintenance, and not just construction access, but in perpetuity, I imagine, for maintenance and access. And so the borough administrator is shaking his head. And so I'm gathering that my understanding of that is correct. That will exist forever.
Yes, it's for maintenance such as landscaping and things like that.
Right, and the trees that are going to be maintained, they're going to be watered and so on and so forth. Okay. I didn't see anything in either of these ordinances that addresses with respect to access, that addresses how is the library or the borough notified when there's going to be, for example, a need for closing the parking lot at the library because you're going to have large machinery there that's digging up whatever needs to be dug up and so on. Does that kind of information generally come to the administrator's office? And if it does not, then I'd like to propose in some way that at the very least, that the library director be notified when that parking lot is going to become unavailable to patrons.
So I won't get into Dan's territory about why it's not in the easement, but I don't think that language would normally be in there. I've had conversations already with the developer and with the lady from the library that we would be notified anytime during construction they would have any equipment on the property at all, and especially if it was going to impact the parking on the lot. But I've had conversations with both the developer and the lady about that.
And I want to be clear, report from the staff is that the folks next door, the developer has been very cooperative and communicative with the library. One other issue, and that is, I do want to a small correction with respect to who owns the building. The library was deeded to the town in 1937 by the Eisner family. There is a restriction on that deed. And should that building become used in another way, it won't come, that building cannot be sold by the town. The building would be sold and the money, as the restriction in the deed indicates, will be given to Harvard University. But in fact, the borough does own the library. Okay, I have one other issue, and I'm not sure this is the proper place to address it. And so I ask you, Mr. Administrator, I have some concern about the ordinance with respect to Broadwalk. Is this the proper time to do that? Or will there be a separate discussion with respect to Broadwalk?
It's an agenda item, Mrs. Bunch.
Okay. The $2.25 per square foot. That is for Broadwalk and not for streeteries, is that correct?
That's correct. This only
Okay.
deals with Broadwalk.
Okay.
White Street.
And what was the figure last year?
The same.
It's the same as last year, but thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've got two issues that I.
State your name, address.
Yeah, sorry. William Poku, 90 Bank Street, Red Bank. Mayor and Council, I have two issues that I want to bring to your attention. And I've met with the borough administrator and have a conversation with him and also provided some material. Mr. McConnell, were you able to take a look at the material?
Yes, but briefly, to be honest, you mean the two legal briefs or?
Yes.
Yes, but briefly, yes.
So I presume later you might be able to share with the rest of the council and whoever needs to deal with it. Now, the first issue this year, early this year, I came before the council and I urged you to consider withdrawing from the assessment development program, which I believed was something that was detrimental to the Black population in Red Bank. And I'm basically speaking with respect to 23-94, okay, on the agenda. 23-94 is talking about some kind of a settlement. A lot of issues that were brought by the firefighters all boils down to money. If somebody threw in $1 million to the town, I think we could very easily take care of the problem. Now with the tax situation, the tax amendment, the assessment development program, it goes counter what's called the Freeze Act, which is supposed to give some kind of a time of repose to taxpayers. Now, there is litigation going on that is going to be resolved by the Tax Court of New Jersey. And I believe that it's going to have an impact on the amount of money that this town can collect for property taxes. And this year, anybody that cares to listen, especially members of the NAACP that filed an appeal in time by April 15, found some significant improvement in their treatment. So please confer with the business administrator and look at what has been presented and what's probably coming down the line. Now, the second issue is sovereign immunity. Mr. Ballard and Kate, Ms. Trajano, a while back, I brought an issue about dangerous sidewalks in this town. And on March 30, I fell victim to one of those. So I had a conversation with the business administrator and I urged public department, Public Works to go out there and take a look at the situation. When I spoke with Mr. McConnell, he basically did explain that there was some kind of a conflict between ADA provisions and also, and I think if I'm wrong, you can elaborate a little bit more on that. But the bottom line is, if a mother was pushing a cart down that crosswalk that I brought the police department to take a look at and hit what I hit, the baby would fall out of the cart. So I look at it like every place else in town where you have an issue like that, do that stroller test to see if the visibility was not perfect and you have a crosswalk marked, you got signs that says we cross at the corners. So a person crosses at the corner, trips, and then there is a liability. So Mr. Antonelli, maybe you might want to speak a little bit about sovereign immunity, because where it is right now, a tort claim act has to be filed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Carr, 16 Locust Avenue, speaking only for myself, nobody else, what Sue said. I spoke about this at the January 4th meeting. I would like, public comment to really be at the beginning. And to me, the introduction of a municipal budget is real business. And I'm not a lawyer, but I think that the public or anybody, certainly the fire department, should have a right to comment on the municipal budget before it's introduced. I don't know why I don't know why your process, I don't know how the process works now with, but I think that the introduction should be after public comment and actions, on action items. That way we could have avoided, actually, you might have made a good point, Councilman. And several of you did, I think comments about that budget should have been before the issue came up. And of course, I do think you're doing the right thing by addressing this now. Let's not wait for the new government to come into place. Sounds like you all are on board and supporting our fire department. I'm very grateful since I've lived here in '96, for the many times emergency services have been there for my family, my neighbors. And I'm very grateful, and this is too important. Obviously, fire and safety are a core issue for municipal government. And I appreciate the volunteers and all the time they put in, and the small things we can do to help are overdue. Thank you.
Jocko Citadino, 228 Maple Avenue, Red Bank, New Jersey. Before I get started, I just want to thank the Red Bank Fire Department. I am here as an owner of my own law firm and on behalf of my clients, G's Trees Cultivation Club, to discuss 2023-14, the cannabis amendment. But I think I speak on behalf of myself and my clients that we are here to support the Red Bank Fire Department. And if the Red Bank Fire Department needs anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us to help support you guys as well. So moving forward, we just want to get that out there. With regard to the 2023-14 agenda, I just have some couple questions for the council members. Has anybody discussed proposed amended changes to this cannabis ordinance? Has there been any changes? I haven't heard back from anybody. I have emailed Mr. Mayor, Mr. Antonelli a number of times. I have sent in multiple open requests to discuss what's going on in these special meetings. Yet I've heard no responses, and yet this amendment was expedited beyond belief. It was unprecedented. The meeting was last about 13 days ago, and they rushed to get this ordinance to the board to vote on something which I would say 85% of the crowd objected to. So questions out there. Is there any changes being made? Have we discussed how many cultivation businesses are going to be allowed in town? Have we discussed the profits that you guys are going to lose out if you guys do restrict this number? Is this number arbitrary? Is this vote to the cannabis application going to be subjective? I have a number of questions here. I have proof that my clients have already been approved by the CRC state and are in the final process of getting their fingerprint and background checks, which means that their application's already been about 95% approved, and now they're just going to the final stages here, which will probably happen within the next month or two. So, if they come to town based on the original resolution, based on the original town zoning ordinances and approvals, along with their CRC state license, are they allowed to start operating? What's the procedure here? Nobody is understanding what's going on here, and my clients have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their business started. So I leave you guys a couple questions here, and I hope that you guys can help clear the air.
So you want to go through your questions again? You threw out a lot of it. I want to keep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's were there any changes made to the proposed amendment?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, the ordinance was put together by our code committee, which was And I did respond with the information that I knew of to your open request and passed it on to our clerk.
Yeah.
Accumulates all of that stuff, but it's myself, Councilwoman Morandi, and Councilman Jackson, along with our borough attorney. And all this was in the response, our community development director and our borough engineer.
Councilman Ballard, I'm sorry, but on March 30th, I sent 5 open requests to the town, and the only response I got was, can we please have an extension to provide open records, open public records? I do believe you guys responded saying that some of these records do not exist with regards to my request for text messages, phone calls, and other information. But I think that the town needs to understand where this information is. And just to reiterate, what she said right here is that Open Public Records Act, all right? We should be able to get these open public records within 7 days. That's state law. This is, I don't know what's going on here with the special meetings, but these are open public records dictating how these businesses in town operate. So I sent in a request formally with the town borough. The mayor was CC'd on that email. The borough clerk was CC'd on that email. I made a formal public request. I have them right here. I could hand them out to everybody to look at. Yet all I got was an extension request and saying that we need more time to provide this information. This is open public records. If they're not open public records, then what's going on?
I'll defer to our attorney and our borough clerk who handle it.
I've emailed Mr. Antonelli a number of times as well, and I still haven't heard back from him either.
Excuse me, I'd be happy to respond. First of all, sir, we're not going to debate whether your open request is valid or not. Obviously, if you're dissatisfied with the clerk's decision, you could file an action in Superior Court. You could also file an action with the GRC.
Sure.
The clerk has a right under the law to actually ask for an extension, which she has done. Frankly, many requests were not proper open requests, and I think she advised you of that as well. With regard to some of the correspondence you have sent to me, I'm in no position to make any representations on behalf of the borough on what impact any pending ordinance or the current ordinance has with regard to your client. You had asked, I believe, to be grandfathered in. That's not something I've recommended to the council already. So like I said, at this point in time, we're not going to speculate on your application, whether or not it's going to be approved. And, you know, right now, council, I think, is just attempting to put a process in place. And then obviously, you could choose to follow the process or challenge the ordinance. I'm not suggesting to do that, but I'm not going to speculate or put my client in a position to speculate on your client's application, which I heard is still not complete with the CRC.
Mr. Antonelli, I'm not asking you to speculate anything. I'm asking you to provide open public records. And I understand what you're
First of all, I'm
saying.
not distorting the record, sir. The clerk is, and by all accounts, at this point, all our actions appear to me to be in order. Frankly, you know, she, I believe, responded or was going to respond that some of your requests were not proper requests. You're asked for any and all emails between people, unidentified people, not a subject matter, no dates. I mean, so the clerk will handle your open request in a normal course. She's asked for an extension that's proper under the law. And obviously, if you disagree with her extension or you disagree with the response, you could, take action from there and file with the Superior Court or the Government Records Council.
Mr. Antonelli, would you have requested that I actually name people in the special committee, which I'm not privy to, for my open public records request? You're saying I'm requesting emails going back and forth between the subcommittee, which I do not know who's actually on the subcommittee, who are actually making the changes to the ordinance in which my clients are bound by. So, I mean, all members
The clerk will handle.
Amended ordinance. That's what my request is.
I'm not going to debate your open public records request in public here, sir. The clerk's going to respond appropriately. That's all I could say. I've known the clerk for many, many years. She does her job well.
No, this has nothing to do with the clerk, sir. Excuse me, can I also just please get further clarification? Were you able to pass on my request about my clients being grandfathered in for the ordinance?
So I'm not going to go into privileged communications I've had with my client. I'll just leave it there.
Is your client the town?
So we're not going to be in a position to grandfather anybody. I would not advise or recommend to this mayor and council to make a decision on grandfathering anybody in, because frankly, that's a zoning decision and that's not a decision for this body.
May I ask the council members if they've even considered grandfathering in cannabis related businesses that have been granted prior resolutions?
I'm gonna obviously I can't tell members of council not to respond, but I would certainly advise against providing a response that says that you would entertain that, because that creates a whole nother layer of liability for this council. As this council is aware, there are many resolutions out there. The resolution is not binding on this council, it's not binding on the borough. And frankly, it's not a decision for this body to make. It's a zoning decision for your zoning official to determine whether or not a property or a use gets grandfather status. And then there's certainly a process and a procedure to go before the zoning board to have the zoning board make that determination. So it's really not a determination.
Just for clarification, Mr. Antonelli, that my client's zoning issues have nothing to do with what's going on here. My clients were given a resolution. They're still zoned properly by the town.
It's not a grandfathering situation then.
Okay, so.
Grandfathering only comes into play on a zoning issue. So I guess it's a moot point.
Well, again, I come to the council to ask questions here in regards to my client. We received the prior resolution. We're still properly zoned within the town ordinances, either the amended ordinance or the prior town ordinance with regard to zoning. They're in the process of trying to turn a dilapidated building into something that's revenue generating for the town as well as their own business. They're looking to give back to the town, and we just want to move forwards as we were previously promised. So we're properly zoned with proper approvals from the town. Are they going to be allowed to move forwards with this business, or are they going to have to get in line for this cannabis application procedural process if and when this amended proposed ordinance passes?
I'm not sure the answer to your question. I didn't have a part in writing it. I don't vote on it.
I understand, Mayor, and I apologize for including you in that, but this is outside of your vote. But does anybody have anything to say about the proposed amended cannabis changes? Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Luke McCann, 4 Catherine Street, representing G's Trees Cultivation Club. I am the owner. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are a family business. We're local. This is not some sham where it seems local and it's backed by another California company. We are local. People who finance are all local. We are looking to put a beautiful business together. We're going to match the front of the building with the rest of the community, and you're not even going to know we're there. So we've spent a lot of money. We look forward to spending more money to get you guys to get in front of your zoning and planning board with our site plans, with the correct engineering and all that. So in order to do that, we need to continue to spend money. So I just need to know, like, am I heading in the right direction, or should I stop? Like, should I wait for you guys to figure out your ordinance? Do you have any answers to that question? Because I'm bleeding money over here. I don't want to continue to do that and hiring all these people. I've had architects, builders, and you name it, engineers, environmental people, surveyors. I've spent a boatload of money. So, you know, we've got the place on Catherine Street that looks not that great right now. It looks like a dump. I could turn that place in and match the place across the street, and it would only be tax revenue for the town. So I'm a little confused on why we're limiting the cultivators or scaring the crap out of me with just one.
So the only thing I can say, and I said it before, is that there have been no licenses issued in the borough of Red Bank for any cannabis.
Right, and I know that. We followed everything you guys wanted us to do to a T, and I've cut no corners with you and the state. So I'm confused on like, after, navigating these uncharted waters and doing exactly what this council told me to do. And what the state told me to do. Now I have the state giving me an approval. We're on our final stage with the state. We've been waiting since December 5th. And now I'm hitting this roadblock here. And this is not a good roadblock. It doesn't feel good. What do we do now?
So we're trying to set up a process so that you can apply and get a license to operate.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Ballard, I can't wait to see that process. I'll be the first in line. When do you think you'll have that process in place?
As soon as we can pass this amendment,
And when do you think that will happen?
might happen tonight.
Let's not to get too crazy.
Well, if.
I understand. I understand. I just wish you guys would reconsider the number of cultivators because, like I said, we're flying under the radar, only gonna bring tax revenue, and it's a safe bet for you guys.
Understood, I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? No?
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry, it's 2 on 1.
I paused on that.
Thank you. Robert Lucas, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi, it's Rob Lucas, 48 John Street, Red Bank. I've been to a few of these meetings where cannabis has been on the agenda, mostly virtually, although I did attend an in-person, I think back in February. As a longtime cannabis user, this issue is very important to me. And I was excited when our great state voted convincingly in November of 2020 to legalize it. When I did attend in person, I couldn't help but notice the dysfunction that played out in regards to this issue. I think we just witnessed that again. And it was kind of ugly, actually. And as a Red Bank voter, disappointing to see. So my message, my hope is that the full council comes together, put this process in place, figure it out, and soon. It's been almost 2.5 years since November 2020 and nearly 2 years since the borough passed the cannabis ordinance. I don't want to go to Eatontown or any other town. I want to spend my money in Red Bank. Let's please get this figured out to give the overwhelming majority of Red Bank residents what they want. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barbara Monahan, you have the floor. Barbara Monahan, if you could unmute yourself, you have the floor. Mute. Yes. We'll see what happens. No.
Okay.
There she is.
Barbara, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Barbara Monahan, 30 Pinckney Road. And I am infuriated with any council member who met with members of the fire department and did not approve at least this rent increase. The fire department has had to respond to my house, by the way, and they did it in an incredibly speedy manner. I couldn't believe how fast they were there. And fortunately, everything was okay. But this is public safety, people. This is public safety. And you have free labor for it. No pay, no benefits, nothing. And you want to hold back on giving them $18,000? Am I correct?
Per house.
Yes.
Shame on you. And to obfuscate, obviously, rent with future maybe capital improvements is nonsense. Nonsense, I'm telling you. I'm also, before I run out of battery time on my phone, I also will say I'm very sympathetic with the people who had invested money in cannabis business in Red Bank, that they're getting delayed and they're not being able to do what they were promised at one time. But just back to that fire department budget business, shame on you, on all you. That is beyond the pale not to approve that amount of money for public safety and and my fire department. I depend on them. That's all I have. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, I just wanted to make one of the comments.
Okay.
The budget did not pass tonight, so we are going back to the drawing board. And I thank you for your comments. And I'm not sure whether you heard the mayor or the chief's comment that it was $18,000 per house, not just $18,000.
That is still a small amount of money. And I'm telling you, you must have rocks in your head if you think you can get that kind of protection for I don't know what to say to you. It is still not a lot of money for this absolutely necessary service.
Okay, thank you. Who else? Nicole Shortman.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there in person this evening. I'm a little late in joining, but I've heard, I think, and read on background.
State your name and address.
Oh, sorry, Nicole Shore, 44 Linden Place, Red Bank. I hear that there's a policy has been put forward with respect to cannabis and putting a limit on the number of licenses and determining where to place these locations.
Nicole, let me just interrupt you. That's actually not on the agenda tonight. The only thing on the agenda is a licensing process adopted by the council.
Okay, well, my apologies. I just at least wanted to be present. I'm glad to see the conversations moving forward. I will say, while I empathize that people have put time into figuring out their businesses, since 2008, have seen people descend on New Jersey from all over this country, waiting for legalization to happen with the hopes of opening a business and finding their new revenue. So the thing is, government learns after the fact. So I'm sorry if people have invested time and they are frustrated, but this is really important that this is done right for the community here. And cannabis has been the next Western frontier and gold rush as far as this industry goes. So once again, I just want to make sure it's clear that I'm in full support of the legalization of cannabis, but as with anything else, we need sane policy on how and where this will go. We do it with liquor stores, we do it with bars, we should be doing it with a substance. And I think that's all I have to say, knowing what the little bit that I know right now. So thank you.
Thank you. No, Mayor. Anyone else want to comment?
Hello, good evening. Andy Zeitlin, 829 Orchard Road. I just wanted to read into the record something that you may know, and please stop me immediately if this is patently obvious. But the CRC, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission of New Jersey, issued a guidance to municipalities. So I'm sure you read this, but I just want this read it to the record that the municipalities are not required to establish a local licensing system. If a municipality does decide to create a local licensing system application, the CRC recommends considering the following. Keep the application simple. Municipalities will receive copies of applications submitted to the CRC, so there's no really reason to reinvent the wheel. You're going to get the entire application that every applicant submits to the state, and it's going to be sent to you already, all collated copies for you. Information
solicited by municipalities should focus on municipal matters such as how an applicant plans to address waste disposal, business signage, parking, keeping municipal officials up to date on any significant changes in operations, connecting or communicating with the municipal emergency services, and compliance with construction codes. So I think if we keep to that limited scope, it would make for a more efficient system. Everybody would be able to understand it better. I would like to reiterate that the flow idea, a flow diagram, I think would be really helpful for applicants to understand how we are supposed to be working through the system. I would also like to just tie a couple of concepts together that have been going on in this meeting. Cannabis represents a very significant revenue source for the town, committed by 2% of revenues. And there's going to be offers of support for all local needs. We specifically have a program for each of the areas that have been addressed today or recently, being schools, the fire department, and other needs in the community. So I think that an official process that gets businesses up and running is going to benefit everybody. It's going to benefit the town's needs for additional revenue source. It's going to benefit a lot of the community services that we all need. It probably can fund Marine Park redevelopment. So I'm just throwing out these ideas that are kind of practical. And as a practitioner in this field, I just want to work with you guys. I think we're getting there. I think you need an application process for sure. So I hope we can come to a resolution and making it a really efficient one. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
Just going to ask a question.
Sure.
Sorry to take another moment. Nick Ferraro, 117 Harding Road again. Just wanting to make sure that everything is good. It sounded like the introduction of the budget is going to be tabled. And it's just making sure that we have the proper steps to take next. It sounds like we've provided all information in the past to members of the council and making sure that everything's good from there and wanting to know what our next step is. Is it just waiting on word?
Mayor. So Nick, as I understood it, based on tonight's conversation, if you guys have provided all of the supporting documentation to the chief, and the chief has that, he's going to disseminate it to the entire council so that we can all review it, and then we, have an understanding of what the facts and figures are.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Also want to thank everyone here today in the public, and thank the mayor and council, and thank our commissioner Kate Trigiano for all the support tonight. Thank you.
Nick, before you leave,
Yes.
I see Councilwoman Morandi unmuted herself, but there's some discrepancy, I think, with different members of the council that I get the right direction, whether I do have all the documents that were requested or not. I thought there were more documents requested back at the last meeting we had.
So what was requested at the last meeting that we had was to have the financials of all the companies opened up for the past years to show how every single dollar of ours has been spent. The meeting that we had ended the year with last year had us requested to provide a past, present, and a forecast of capital expenses, repairs, things of the nature, et cetera, that we've spent our money on. We provided that at that last meeting. When we had the most recent meeting, we were told that, oh, that's not what I was looking for. And it was opportune at that time to say that those were the wrong numbers. Since then, we feel that we've justified our needs. We asked at that meeting at the end of the year to allow us to present our budget as it was introduced to the members at that meeting. And we asked for the public to make the call on that. And I think we've heard from the public today that they're in favor of the increases that we're requesting. So while I'd like to say that you are looking for, we gave everything that was asked of us last year. What else is needed going forward has been a bit of confusion to us.
I think at our last meeting, we said about a capital plan for the houses for the next 2 to 3 years. But, that's when we were talking about the borough funding the capital projects.
Right, and when we saw that wouldn't be equitable because of companies that have done things in the past versus companies that'll be doing things in the future, and that numbers will not properly show that, whereas our past numbers that we had presented to you already did.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. It comes down to, because again, my feeling, it was never about the dollar amount. It was about what it was for. And it really wasn't a sole finance committee decision. So now, you discussed it with the remainder of council. And I would ask them what they would like to see. Right, because we had the last meeting and we talked about funding the capital and what does the capital plan look like, just like we do with our other departments.
So I'll start and I'll say that I plan to support exactly what you introduced or you provided as your budget in full. I would like to support that in full.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, again, it's not something I'm voting on unless we have a tie, but I made my feelings pretty clear about it. Thank you.
And I just need the information because I haven't been privy to any of it. And I don't think Councilwoman Sturtevant or Councilman Jackson have been privy to that information either because hasn't moved beyond one committee.
I don't think anybody up here is against the fire department. We just want to be educated. So when we cast a vote, we know what we're voting for and we're confident in our vote. But like I said before, that request to have you guys come in front of the public as you did tonight, you present your case to the full council. Again, that was part of the discussion way back in October and November. I don't know why that never happened, and we've gotten to emails back and forth and letters and things like that, but.
Well, to rehash the history then, because we had discussed that at that last meeting, and all parties left agreeing that Chief Hartman would add these numbers into his budget, and that we'd like for the public to decide upon it, and we would offer any support that the council needed to speak on our behalf, and we left that door open. Nothing was communicated until that one day that Chief Hartman was told that everything was being removed from the budget, the increases that he had proposed. So that's what caused the emails to go back and forth. That's what caused the request for new meetings, which tried back and forth and started with 3 members and went down to 1 member, and it's going to be 12 members and ended in a small room with 5 people. But that's why we are here today, for the public comment.
And I'm glad you're here today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Ferraro.
Yes.
So thank you for your comments. Provided that documentation, is a fair representation of the increases that you're asking for. I promise the fire department that we are not going to nickel and dime anybody. We value the fire department. We value the services that you bring to our community. Very recently, we've seen examples of that. So all we're asking you to do is just to make an informed decision versus not as follows. Just as long as you can understand that, that's all we're asking.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Dominic Rizzo, Catch 19 in Centrata, 19 Broad Street and West Front Street. I'm speaking only on behalf of myself on 2 matters. I'm a Red Bank fireman as well. And it's wild to me because I do it because I really love the town and I enjoy it. And it's just astonishing to me. It took the outpouring of these gentlemen to come here right now to just ask for what we need to actually do the job to do that. But that's besides the point. But I make that a really, it's just wild to me that I do it on my own time when I can. And now I'm going to recluse to what I really wanted to say is about Broad Street. So every year it's a question of up or down, whether we're going to do it, whether we're not going to do it. When is it going to be? When are we going to do it? When is it going to close? When is it going to open again? And I've asked many people many different times, and there's never an answer. And now it went back and forth between, okay, maybe we'll just do it on weekends. Maybe we'll just do it. I don't understand how you guys or how everybody can't see. We spend a lot of money to make us look great. I've been to Asbury, I've been to Neptune, other towns that do this and they they do it, not the right way, and it doesn't look good. And they don't know what days where the streets are closed. They don't know what day with this. And I don't understand why we can't get a day. And every year, why we have to fight for it to know whether it is or is not going to pass. And I still don't have an answer. And it has nothing to do with my business. I'm not mad at Molly Pitcher for having waterfront property. I don't pay those things. So, but we're willing to do it and make it look nice to represent the town. Rising tides, all ships rise. I don't understand why we can't just have it in, this is the date, close, this is the date we open, and then make it look nice and represent our town in the right way. And no one has an answer. I don't know if I can get an answer tonight, but I'm just putting that out there as the.
Mayor, if I may, Mr. Rizzo, I'm a little unclear as to what you're referring to.
Broadwalk.
It's resolution 104 tonight.
Councilman, I think he would like to see it become an ordinance so that every single year, everybody who's involved in it knows and understands the start date, the end date, so that everybody knows what's happening every year. You'd like to see it become an ordinance.
What is the start date this year? What is the end date this year?
It's May.
That's in
2023. Through September 30th, 2023.
Okay, so I'm one of the businesses on there and I had no idea because I had to search for it. I had to Google it, I guess.
Yes, Mr. Rizzo, that was discussed at a prior,
Understood, but I'm the busy. Don't you think somebody should say, okay, these are the exact dates? And every year it's gonna be the same, so you can invest $100,000 into your outside seating to make the town look nice?
I think what happened at the last meeting, you may have missed. And there was
100%, but that's my point.
There was a dialogue with a lot of the restaurateurs who came in and spoke to us and made a request. And that's how we arrived at these.
So from now moving forward until another resolution is passed, it's May 15th till the end of September.
So
that's my first. From now on, every year.
The governing body's gonna change July 1st, so,
I'm asking you the question now, so
We would have to pass an ordinance to make it.
and is that in the cards to do so? So it's not up and down every year?
I'd like to.
Yeah, I would like to as well.
So again, zero answer.
Listen, I'm happy we got this far tonight, so if we get through this meeting,
I was trying to improve the town and asking for answers, and there's zero answers.
okay, so Mr. Rizzo, happy to give you an answer here. When Bob did his presentation on what,
It's been amazing, by the way, because he's the only information I ever had.
No, I'm just saying, he made a presentation with certain conditions that River Center would do if we did Boardwalk again this year.
Right.
We have to see that those things actually come to fruition. We have to see that the quality of life issues are actually backed up before we make a commitment to make it a permanent fixture. So we are not averse to making it a permanent fixture. We need to make sure that there is accountability and responsibility on both sides.
Understood. And when will that be brought back into fruition or into a conversation?
Okay, so I'm only speaking for myself, not for this.
Understood,
council.
yeah.
I would say after September 30th, after we see how the season goes, I would say it would be fair. That's something that we could reintroduce at the end of this year to say, we've had such a successful season. It was a model for success. Let's talk about making it permanent, or you want to know what, things didn't happen the way, blah, blah, blah,
Okay.
We have to see how it goes.
Okay, so after this season, we could probably get a clearer picture moving forward.
One of the other components is that we have a mechanical issue with the bollards that were installed. So, if they never go down again, it may be a permanent solution.
Well, understood. And that's why even those bollards are so great, but then we have to put the cones back because nobody can see them. So it's like, it's almost a moot point at that time.
Just so you know, Bob Zuckerman addressed that as well when he was talking about all the issues, and they're getting these covers that make them more visible. and
It's
different
phenomenal,
designs and
yeah.
Stuff, so.
Again, everybody that spoke up here wants the town to be the best they can, and it seems like we're not really pushing forward answers. I'll shut up. I apologize. Thank you for your time, guys.
Well, tonight we'll pass it, and May 15th is the start date.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Anyone else have any comments? No, okay, can I?
You online?
What's that? Online?
No.
Can I get a motion to close the public?
So moved.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys,
Thank you.
and girls, and women, and men. All right, next we are going on to the approval of the minutes and reports. These are the minutes from March 29th, 2023, our special meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm sorry, I broke that up. So can I get a motion to approve the department reports as well?
So moved.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, our first ordinance. 2023-15, amending and supplementing chapter 680 vehicles and traffic, section 680-42. Schedule 8, stop intersections. Is there a motion to approve on introduction?
So moved.
I get a second?
Second,
Okay. And now we just go right to a roll call. Public hearing.
Councilmember Jackson? No
Yeah.
public hearing for this one.
Yes.
Sorry, threw myself off. Councilmember Morandi?
yes.
Councilmember Sturdivant?
Yes.
Councilmember Trigiano?
Yes.
Councilmember Ballard?
Yes.
And Councilmember Ziprich?
Yes.
Passes on introduction.
All right, there'll be a public hearing for this on April 26th. Next is 2023-16. Bond ordinance of the Borough of Red Bank and the County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey to provide funding for the South Street roadway improvement project. Is there a motion to approve on introduction?
So moved.
I get a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Morandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Sturdivant?
Yes.
Councilmember Trigiano?
Yes.
Councilmember Ballard?
Yes.
And Councilmember Ziprich?
Yes.
All right, be a public hearing on April 26th. Next, we have 2023-17 bond ordinance of the Borough of Red Bank and the County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey to provide funding for improvements and or rehabilitation of Red Bank Housing Authority units.
So moved.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Yeah, I didn't hear you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay,
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Morandi?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
my notes say I got a public hearing on April 26th.
Okay.
Councilmember Sturdivant?
Yes.
Councilmember Trigiano?
Yes.
Councilmember Ballard?
Yes.
And Councilmember Ziprich?
Yes.
Motion passes on introduction. sir.
All right, public hearing again will be April 26th. Next up, for public hearing and adoption, 2023-10, 96-98 West Front Street LLC for an access and maintenance easement to 96-98 West Front Street LLC. Could I get a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone have any comments on this ordinance? No? Okay, oh yeah, please.
Stephen Heckman, pardon me, 135 Branch Avenue. I'm not understanding where we left it with respect to whether or not the administrator or the library director will be notified when the parking lot is impacted. And if we left it, I thought that they would be notified. Where is that memorialized in the material?
Borough Attorney, you want to answer that question? I said, hold on.
Yeah, I don't believe it's specifically set forth in the ordinance. However, I mean, obviously, you know, an easement is the right to use someone else's property. I mean, it's my understanding that obviously there's some limited issues with regard to the construction, and then obviously just maintenance over time. I would think that the property owner would obviously coordinate with the library and give notice when they have intentions to be on library property to perform, for example, maintenance type of action. I don't suspect that's going to be often, but I would just think that that would be something that would be just a normal part of and practice of the way two property owners would work with each other, especially in this case where the borough is actually the one granting the easement.
And to answer the other part of your question, yes, the developer and the library, and the library, meaning Eleni and I have discussed that they would notify us prior to any significant work on the property beyond trimming bushes or something like that.
Okay, so recent past experience suggests that the developer is going to behave in a reasonable way. And of course, the borough always behaves in a reasonable way, so it shouldn't be a problem. Is that what we're saying, even though it doesn't get memorialized in the documents? Is that where we stand? And if
From my position, yes, I don't want to get on Dan's territory or whether it's typically in an easement.
Like, I could just say this, you know, they'll provide reasonable notice. I mean, that's generally inferred, and I'm looking at the document now. There is some reasonable notice language in there. I guess reasonable is, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. But yeah, there'll be notification provided.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Yes.
Excuse me, I've got a comment. So is it an understanding that the developer is going to be using the parking area for the library on a consistent basis? Because when I was reading it, I didn't get that impression.
No, for the purposes of the construction, at sometimes they may have to be on there for a day or 2 or 3 or whatever to do the work. It's not that as an ongoing practice, they're going to be using the parking lot now.
And then the only other time from what I read is if they have to do some landscaping on that edge of the property.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
And Mayor, before you call the roll, I'd like to also add too, this obviously predated my tenure here at the borough. This application was approved some time ago. So it was also not just reviewed by me, just more or less for form, but the attorney for the board as well reviewed, made comments and edits. So it's been looked at by a couple sets of eyes already.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-10?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morandi,
Gonna abstain.
Councilmember Sturdivant,
Yes.
Councilmember Trigiano,
Yes.
Councilmember Ballard,
Yes.
and Councilmember Zipperich.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Okay, next up is 2023-11, 96-98 West Front Street LLC, a temporary construction access easement to 96-98 West Front Street LLC. I have a motion to open the public hearings on this ordinance only.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any comments from the public? No? I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance only.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-11?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All right, Laura, roll call.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morandi,
Abstain.
Councilmember Sturdivant,
Yes.
Councilmember Trigiano,
Yes.
Councilmember Ballard,
Yes.
Councilmember Zipperich.
Abstain.
Passes.
Okay, 2023-14. Amending chapter 270 entitled Cannabis, the Code of the Borough of Red Bank, New Jersey, inconsistent herewith in establishing requirements for cannabis business licensure procedure. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this ordinance only?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, comments from the public on this ordinance?
Please let us get 2 gold fingers.
Any public comment?
Am I allowed to address the council again? Yeah, I'm Citadino 228 Maple Avenue, San Bernardino, Citadino here on behalf of G's Trees Cultivation Club. First want to apologize, not trying to come off confrontational at all, just trying to get clarification from my clients here. The last time we were in here 13 days ago, there were serious confusion as to how we were gonna move forwards with regard to the application process, the amendment to chapter 270. The board was confused. Mr. Mayor, I don't wanna assume anything on your behalf, but Mr. Mayor had a handful of questions. And there still seemed to be an expedited process. I don't think that there's an issue here on our behalf of whether or not there is a process or an application or for Red Bank to govern, the cannabis industry in any way they choose. We're just looking for clarification here. We're looking to work with you guys. And again, I apologize earlier for being confrontational. It's just bizarre to me when we're sending in questions and requests and we're not hearing anything back. So, I don't even know. Does anybody know if the meeting minutes from the last board meeting were even posted?
Okay, from the special meeting, the meetings will not be, the minutes will not be posted until they've been approved by the governing body, which happened this evening.
Okay.
So they won't go up in their draft form.
All right. Thank you very much for clarifying that. So again, listen, you've heard my client speak, you've heard me speak. We're looking for clarification. We're confused as the subjective restriction on cultivators. There's only a limited amount of space in town that is properly zoned for cannabis cultivation in the light industrial and industrial zones. That the majority of that zone is taken up by the railroad itself. There's only maybe a handful of properties that are available. We found one of them. So again, I'm just asking the council to please reconsider the amount of cultivators that are allowed in town. It's just a revenue producer for you guys. We will jump through every single hoop with regard to application if need be. We will pay whatever application cost you guys want. I'm not gonna say numbers because my clients will be mad at me, but we have already done everything that the state has asked us and that the city has asked for us, the borough has asked for us at this point. So the additional application is not an issue. It's just whether or not we're gonna be restricted because you guys handed out 3 prior resolutions based on a prior ordinance, and now all of a sudden, there's 3 people in town fighting for 1 cultivation license. I get it, the retailers, and I'm not gonna speak bad about them. You guys are concerned about lines and parking and the appearance. Nobody's gonna know we're there. We're on a train track. We literally are right up against the train tracks. It's a dilapidated piece of land that we're just looking to improve. So, I just please ask the council to reconsider the amount of cultivators. I understand you guys aren't going to grandfather us in, but just please keep us in mind that we're doing everything here. We are Red Bank locals. My law firm is here. I plan on staying here. I don't plan on being so confrontational in the future. But I do just want to work with the town to try to figure out what the best course of action is here. So if you guys could just reconsider that one part of the application to include more cultivators in town, then I believe we're going to get our state license before anybody else, and we're going to get our town application in before anybody else as well. So I just don't want it to be a subjective situation where people are ruling on something where nobody knows how that actually happened. And that seems to be the issue here when it comes to cannabis, in whole. So if you guys have any questions, please, I'm an open book. My clients are open to, talk about this situation, and we're just trying to figure out what the next steps are here so we can make the best educated decision for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a couple more. Sorry, guys. I just have a couple of questions. Did you guys realize about Luke McCann, 4 Catherine Street, G Trees Cultivation Club? Did you guys realize after Andrew spoke that you would have a copy of the CRC application after all was done? Did you guys realize that? And what he kind of spoke about, the facts, did you read into that? So you know all of that. Okay. That's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Zeitland, 29 Orchard Road. One potential solution that I'm just going to throw out is that I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are no such things as a class 2 class 3 and class 4, which are distributors and wholesalers. So those are included in the ordinance. You could just say for the time being, we really don't want wholesalers and distributors in town and do another cultivation license. Just an idea. But there are certainly, I think, if you get into the details of the CRC guidances, that you'll see that you have a lot of latitude. But the awarding system has not even started. There's no such thing as a class distributor, class 4 or class 3, or a delivery license, class 6. These are things that the state hasn't gotten to. So just so you know that there's no pressure on those. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you. Mayor online, we have Frank Corrado. You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I am calling because I'm concerned with.
Is your name and address, please?
Oh, sorry, Frank Corrado, 73 Linden Place. I'm calling in tonight because I'm concerned with just the stranglehold of restriction being put on these. Well, not only on the cannabis businesses that have invested money into this town. First of all, I'm calling as a resident here. I don't have a dog in this fight. But I'm calling as a resident, and I'm concerned on a couple of areas. First of all, high level, you're restricting these businesses after other rules were put into place. And you're really opening yourself up to litigation. So as a taxpayer, I'm concerned that the actions that you're taking are not considering the risks that come with the actions that you're taking. But also, I just generally think it's an opportunity. I think by restricting it, you're making fear-based decisions. I think you're being overly restrictive in the way that you're putting forth the language of the rules. And I mean, as a resident, I wanted to put my voice out there that I think there should be less restriction on cannabis in this town that's currently put forth.
Is that it, Frank?
Yep, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Another one, Mayor, Nicole Shore.
Hi, Nicole Shore, 44 Linden Place. So, cannabis is new to Red Bank, but we can learn from other cities that have adopted it. And what we do know is that places where there have been a lot of establishments set up, there tends to be a lot of public smoking. And sure, you can call it illegal. I lived in Brooklyn for a decade. You can walk down the street on any day and be trailing behind someone smoking, number one. Number two, we have seen a proliferation of stores in San Francisco, in Portland, in New York. And what happens in a short period of time is that there's actually not enough of a customer base for all of those locations. So while we have lots of people wanting licenses and wanting to do things in this town, once again, I compare it to a gold rush. I literally, over the last 17, 15 years, have met people who have come here from other states just waiting for the moment that cannabis was legalized so they could open a grow farm, so that they could open a retail establishment. They were citing locations. Many of them left because it took the state too long. So I am concerned as a resident about lots of places wanting to open and then they're not being the business. I also did not move to this town for it to become a destination for lots of cannabis businesses. Now, I do notice a very strong difference in opinion between people who are not cannabis users and people who are cannabis users. And it's my opinion, and from what I see, is that cannabis users are very focused on what they would like to see because they use it, they'd like it to be convenient. I understand that. We are a very child-heavy community. We have 2 large schools in this town that when the doors let out at 2 o'clock, there are kids everywhere. On Friday night, we have packs of kids hanging out, going to the arcade and doing wonderful things like having ice cream, and it's the all-American picture. That's the town that I moved to. I did not move to a town to have 14 cannabis businesses open up and surround us. I am curious, I'm open-minded. I would really love to understand why a cultivator wants to set up camp in the middle of a small town when there is plenty of land all over this state, vacant industrial buildings. You have Arrow Farms. In case you're not familiar with Arrow Farms, they grow food. And what they did was they took over a warehouse and they grow food in the warehouse. They're not in the middle of some town. They're out in the suburbs. So I would love to hear and really try to understand why there is such an emphasis from cultivators and companies like that in opening up shop in the middle of a small town. And so that I want to share that. I really encourage everyone to look at what has happened at other places where this has opened. I literally took a poll of friends who live in all of these cities across the country. I have traveled to them repeatedly for business myself. I don't know how much any of you have other than for vacation and saying, oh, I've been there. There's been no issue. I can tell you locals are constantly smelling weed, even though it's not supposed to be smoke in public. So we can just throw out the window the idea that people are going to obey the law that you shouldn't be walking around town smoking pot. And as a non-smoker, I don't want to be surrounded by that. And in general, all the other reasons that I just gave. So I would really appreciate if everyone thinks about everyone's needs in this town and not just what's convenient for them. And I am truly curious why cultivators feel the need to open warehouses and cultivate weed in the middle of a small town when you could easily find lots of vacant buildings outside of town in suburban areas and where there's sprawling land. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Hello, Linda Hill, 64 McLaren Street. I didn't plan to speak tonight, but I heard two of my fellow residents, Frank Corrado and Nicole Shore, talk about the approach that is being taken and some strong opinions. I'm a pharmacist. I mean, I've been trained to think cautiously. I've used cannabis. I confessed that in public before. I would much prefer my counsel to act in a way that is measured, planned, thoughtful in issuing licenses, and that there's a really great process in place to be sure that we're opening the doors to businesses that we'd be proud to have alongside all the other wonderful businesses in town. And I don't know how difficult it would be were we to open it up to many different, numbers of licenses and in the different classes. And then we decide, hey, you know what? This isn't working for Red Bank. What do we do then? Kick them out? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I like the idea of let's start it. Nobody's saying don't, maybe some people are, but let's also just be thoughtful about moving forward. And that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Comment, please. Ms. Hill, before you go away, or you can return to your seat. Thank you for your comments. This council actually does agree with your approach and has taken what we believe is a measured approach to first of its kind cannabis sales in this, in our town. We believe in starting small and making a determination of does what's in the ordinance that we've proposed and introduced and may pass this evening meet the needs of our community? Rather than open the floodgates, is it sufficient with what we've got in this ordinance? And again, as one of your council people, what I will do is if that does not sufficiently meet the needs of Red Bank, then we can revisit the ordinance in the future. But we do believe in starting in a very methodical way. And that includes the cannabis Cannabis Review Board, to Mr. Sedino's question about how are we going to, or how is the review board going to approve applicants? That's designed to be an objective body that looks at every applicant objectively. So there is no subjectivity to it, et cetera. Hopefully that's something that everyone can understand. To Ms. Hill's point, there are absolutely very polarizing viewpoints, on this issue, but we are doing what we feel is best for Red Bank. Thank you.
Any other comments? I have a motion to close the public comment.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, can I have a,
Council comment?
what's that?
Permission to speak?
Yes.
So I think we've talked about this piece. Obviously, this is separate from the other ordinance. I just have two questions. Last, the other cannabis ordinance left off, it was being expedited, there's gonna be a special meeting. What happened? That meeting didn't happen? Because it's not on the agenda.
It was referred to the planning board, I believe.
Well, I had asked, I had a conversation with Councilman Ballard about that. I said, because we're gonna need to have a planning board approval before we have the next reading. Now, you had told me, Mike, that you were trying to set up an emergency planning or a special session for the planning board. Is that?
No, I don't set up the planning board meeting. That's Shauna's responsibility. And it was my understanding and the multiple meetings that we had, she's on the code committee who helped draft these ordinances, that she would be willing to have a special planning board meeting to expedite this. So the ball's in Shauna's court.
It didn't happen.
All right.
Referred to her, isn't it?
Okay, and then the other thing, I think I've expressed this in the past, we're having issues with siphoning of having a full borough council. I mean, we see that with the committee formations that we have now with only a couple of people on this, a couple of people on that. As a resident, as a council person, I have a concern with there being one council person on the review board. I have an issue with that and how that would operate with those decisions being made and the position you're putting that one council person in out of a full governing body. That would be one of my main concerns with this.
Councilwoman, what is the concern though? What's driving your concern?
My concern is I'm for less siphoning. I'm for less one council person or two council persons on the finance or one person here or one person there. Having one person out of an entire elected governing body be on something like the Cannabis Review Board, to me, I would find to be opening up to problems, because that's been a problem with our form of government, with this dividing up things into 1 to 2 people. I just think that could become very problematic.
Well, it's the same process we have for a planning board. We select one of us to go on the planning board and make decisions that are referred back to the council. So this is the exact same type of process.
There's a full planning board with that.
And there's a full review board.
No, there would only be one elected official on this review board.
Okay, and there's one selected council person on the planning board.
Yeah, I don't think it's a fair analogy. I don't find it.
Still only one.
Yeah, I don't think it's good. And it's only one elected council person and not, oh, I hear you. Oh, thank you. And not the mayor.
Right, but Councilwoman, that council member will be appointed by the governing body. So it will be with the consent of the governing body.
Mm-hmm. I do. I just have concerns about it. I have concerns about having one elected official on the Cannabis Review Board. And I think it's been stated before, there's other processes that could take place.
If I can just interject real quickly. So there is a review board that is comprised of the chief of police, director of community development, director of code enforcement, and a member of council appointed by council. But it's just a review board. The ultimate decision to grant or deny a license rests with the full council.
No, it says to provide a recommendation to council for awarding licenses.
Correct. And the council will then accept the recommendation or reject it or modify it, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with it. Sorry.
I hear you. I hear you. I just wanted you to know that the review board doesn't make the final decision, that the council does.
And what would happen if it's the first applicant that gets there? I mean, you're limiting this to one license per category. So is it just whoever gets there first is awarded, or what are you gonna, how does that work?
Well, there's no guarantee that just because one applicant comes forward that that person is going to be approved. You know, that's what the review board does. They make an assessment of that applicant, not in comparison to the volume of applications, but to say, does that applicant, you know, meet the conditions as outlined in the ordinance?
But what if they do? Then the first, I mean, everybody that's invested, from what I've seen, the time, the effort, everything else, they're seeing it spelled out what you're asking of them. Nobody's gonna come without their lunch, like everybody's coming prepared. So unless the first person drops the ball in some absurd way, it's whoever gets there first is getting it. Because there's no real arbitrary, I mean, this is all very straightforward. I mean, you're kind of basically repeating a lot of what they're going to have to do at the state license level, and you're just making them do it again. There's nothing really being added on that they're not already doing at the state level. So.
And I can't speak for the future, but if they've satisfied the criteria, then they've satisfied the criteria. I don't think they're going to be doing anything again, you know. They're going to provide their substantiation to meet the needs as outlined in the ordinance.
Yeah, but it's exactly what they're going to have to, there's nothing in this that's different than from what they're having to provide at the state level.
Okay.
So it's just a duplication of process. It's exactly what they're having to do at the state level all over again. So really, without this review board, it would have been whoever is getting the state license at that level, whoever did that first could have been approved. It's just another level of, you know, steps for them to take. There's nothing at this ordinance at our level that's not already, they're not already going through at the state level to get their license.
If I could just interject, Red Bank is in the minority with regard to not having a process in place to vet applicants, regardless of what the state does. A lot of towns, you know, well, you get a copy of the application from the CRC, but a lot of towns have a cannabis review board, and particularly there are some things, and I think there was a gentleman previously that brought up some of the topics that are important locally. You know, the CRC is not looking at whether or not a retail license is you know, acceptable or in a location that worked for Red Bank. I mean, that's where you guys come in. The other thing too, and I think people are forgetting, a big part of the legislation is the social justice aspect to the legislation. So there'll be questions to ask the applicants, what are they going to do in their efforts to support social justice, equity type of issues. I could tell you the towns that we represent, that's something that we look into pretty heavily as far as what they're going to do in that regard. So it's not just a rubber stamp here, it is a process. And Red Bank is actually, you know, catching up to others that have a process in place already.
I appreciate that, and I'm not anti-legislation, and I'm not against regulation of cannabis in some nature. It's just the way that we're going about it. And, you know, like I said, there's nothing in here about what you just said about the social justice and equity. That's separate ordinances, and we've seen them taken on in neighboring towns. There's nothing in this review board that states that the review board is going to be looking for those items. So if that isn't the case, that this review board is going to be checking those boxes of social justice and equity, that should be written here in this ordinance.
It's a state law. I mean, you know, this is a review board. There are obviously some specifics within the ordinance as to what's being reviewed, but you know, you don't need an ordinance to comply with state law. So, but you know, point well taken. But again, my point simply is, I think Red Bank is actually, moving in the right direction and correcting some of the problems with the ordinance that was adopted previously.
And I just feel while I'm sitting here that this will be amended again, is what we're hearing, because it doesn't include the social justice and equity pieces that we're going to be asking of these applicants. And this is the ordinance that is establishing the requirements for cannabis business licensure procedure. So I would imagine that those amendments would have to be falling under this ordinance.
Any other council members have any comments? Okay, motion to adopt ordinance 2023-14. Can I get a motion?
Come over.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Or roll call, please.
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Sturdivant,
Yes.
Councilmember Trigiano,
No.
Councilmember Ballard,
Yes.
Councilmember.
And I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna bear with us. We just have no difficulties.
Everything down, spare parts.
At minimum, our microphones are back. I think so we're still rebooting it. Yeah. Reboot.
I need to run myself.
We got so close to the end, but we're apparently taking a few minute recess.
So. Everything is.
All in meetings. Just. I got the money.
Yes.
They're so, I felt like mine was so low today. I had to like bump it up. They vote on a 5-minute break.
I think people are taking a,
Okay,
break.
it was needed.
Good, Darren.
Oh, good. Once the cannabis. Does it?
Section of.
Yeah.
Stand right now, or?
Almost as a chance.
Yeah.
Or kitchen. Brick wall. I literally thought about bringing this down.
You know, when John Curley sat in this chair, you'd have snacks all over.
About bringing this down, I knew we were gonna be.
And those days, the meetings were only an hour. Next.
They will be back for those. Okay. Let's finish up strong here. Back to the motion to reconvene.
All right on.
So we're gonna offer up the resolutions on the consent agenda, but we will be removing 23-98 as we did that already. I've also just been told that 23-103, 105, and 108 are ready. Resolutions were not appointed. We don't have the resolution here, the grant agreement.
Oh, Mayor, could you give those numbers again, please?
Yes.
It was 103.
103, 105, and 108. And I just got that word, by the way.
Okay.
And Mayor, if I may, as to resolution 103, we're close to a final agreement that will be ready for council. I just didn't want to rush it. We did try and get it on for this evening. I just want to make sure the language is acceptable. I've been working with the chief on it as well as the CFO. So we will have that ready for the next meeting. In addition to resolution 23-105, the lien payoff, I have something in draft. I just still need to work on it a little bit more. And that will be ready for the next meeting as well. And as to resolution number 108, I don't think that'll be on at all. Because we need to do the subdivision of the senior citizen property, creating 2 parcels before we could designate the 1 parcel as open space. So that won't be returning next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So, I'm gonna ask for a motion right now for all of it.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, it's Chair.
Oh, there you go.
I've got a question about 23-102. Can someone just provide some more detail in terms of what the two retired police officers will be doing? Is it tied to the SROs? Because it just, okay, I just.
It's two more SROs to get us to the full complement of three that we planned on for the two to cover the middle school and the primary school. They're both retired Red Bank police officers.
Thank you for that.
And Darren, is there a term limit on that appointment? Is it for the school year or?
Typically, Leo officers are appointed annually. I'd have to check if SLEO 3s are the same. SLEO 1s and SLEO 2s are appointed annually, but the agreement with the school, though, to have SROs at all is it's a multi-year agreement that can be canceled on notice by either party, and then it's reviewed after. I believe it was 3 years of review.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the resolutions?
Yeah, man. I want to apologize to our housing authority commissioners and executive director who are here in support of the agreement that I know we went back and forth on throughout the day, trying to get the language right. I was hoping it would be ready, and that's why it was on the original agenda. But as the attorney said, it doesn't look like we'll be able to move that forward tonight, the actual agreement. The bond ordinance to put aside the money that you guys will be able to tap into, that the borough will control, but you will have access to move forward with engineering and needs assessments and things like that. That is in the works. We did not delay that as you saw, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait till the next meeting for the actual agreement to be put in place. Is to be able to start accessing and doing the work that the housing authority needs to do. My apology for having you sit through this long. So, can you come up to the mic?
I'm just gonna say real quick, just procedurally, can we just vote on this and then right after that we have public questions and comments? And then we'll just, we'll just procedurally, let's take care of it. So,
and I have one other question, Mayor, on 23-99 Sunset Avenue project. What is this?
So this is appointing a firm to serve as the LSRP, which basically oversees the remediation efforts, assist the borough with their DEP and EPA project to ultimately cap the project. It has nothing to do with any kind of design beyond that. It's just to, as you know, May of 24 is our kind of deadline to have that remediated. We're obviously very short on time. And honestly, this firm worked a bit with the consultants on the master plan. They were very good at what they do in this particular area, and our other engineering firms are a little bit, I think, overwhelmed with work to be able to put the amount of efforts that this needs in a short period of time. So this firm is willing and able to do it.
Okay, thank you.
And then Chief, could you also explain the funding on that?
The funding on that is in our is in the operating budget under planning and zoning. We budgeted that under it was a relatively small amount of money, actually $20,000 to $25,000 was funded for that with our operating budget.
Okay, and did I read it correctly? There was a reference to the Monmouth Conservation Foundation?
Yes, they're willing to fund some of the money towards the remediation efforts.
And that's in the form
for donor money.
And that's in the form of a grant.
There's donor money that they're also willing to, they have donors that are willing to put money forth, and they are going to be the applicant on a grant application that we are not able to as a municipal government. They are able to.
Okay, thank you.
So first, can I get a motion to table 23-103, 23-105, and 23-108?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now, can I get a motion to approve the rest of the resolutions on the consent agenda with the exception of 23-98, which we already did?
So moved.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Second.
I don't think we have anything on the discussion action agenda, all right? You guys mind if we do the public questions and comments first, because I know we have Ms. Richardson sitting here.
Good evening. Thank you. Lisa Hendricks Richardson, Executive Director at Red Bank Housing Authority. First, I'd like to thank the council for the introduction of the bond ordinance. We'll be back on April 26th. If you require any additional support, information from our office, please, contact me. I just want to clarify that the resolution that's been tabled this evening will append the final grant agreement. Is that the intent of tonight's tabling the resolution, that we didn't have the agreement ready? I just want to make sure.
Right, I think the language hasn't been clarified and the rest of the council hasn't seen it.
Right, okay. And the resolution will reflect those changes as well, whatever changes we agree to.
Well, that's between the attorneys and then hopefully it's coming back to you and the commissioners and then coming to the council for our final.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Oh, let me give these. Good evening, everyone. Bob Zuckerman, Executive Director of the Red Bank River Center. First, I just want to thank you all for the Broadwalk resolution. I hope that we can come to an agreement very soon on the streeteries as well, so that maybe in 2 weeks we can pass that, a resolution on that, which would be great, and offer up some more options for enlivening our streetscape. And speaking of enlivening our streetscape, the reason that I am here with you this evening is to let you know that we are looking at doing a demonstration project on 11 flower garden beds on Broad Street. We would like to start on Broad Street and then, if successful, then take it to the rest of the downtown. This project, we've been working with a woman by the name of Danielle Boyle. I don't know if any of you know of her or know of her name, but if you've been to the Grove Shopping Center at any time in the last number of years, and you see how beautiful the landscaping is there, that's Danielle's work. She has worked for the Grove for a number of years. She's no longer, I don't believe, working with them. And reached out to her and got a proposal from her just a couple days ago at our executive committee meeting. And we would like to start with 11 beds, which, like I mentioned, are all on Broad, but are part of the reconstruction project that was completed last summer. So we would like to get your permission, I guess in form of resolution, probably, maybe at the next meeting, to use these 11 beds as the demonstration, as the pilot. I gave you a couple of pictures of what a couple of them look like now, not so great. Then I gave you some other pictures of what Danielle can do to these garden beds, and it's pretty phenomenal. Now, we'd like to work with you on, and work with the fire department on potentially using the hydrants, fire hydrants for watering them, because we have to make sure that, especially in the first year if they're planted, that they don't die. Because then we got to start from scratch again next spring. So I'm very excited about this. Our executive board is very excited about this, and hope that you'd be excited about this as well.
Sounds like a great.
We'll pay for it.
Nope. Even better.
Even better, man.
Well, whatever.
You should have led with that. Bob.
I shouldn't have led with that. I saved the best for last.
All right.
Yeah, her work has been beautiful, Bob. I've enjoyed her gardens down at the Grove. I think this is a really, really welcome addition to the new streetscape. have at it.
Great. And by the way, we will not be using the Broad Walk block because that is already going to be beautified. With the exception of potentially the bed right in front of the Starbucks on the corner there. But the rest of the blocks that we're looking to start with in 2023 goes down between White Street and where once Donuts is in that general area. Great.
Hey, I just have one question. I mean, a lot of this looks extremely, I mean, a lot of those beds are extremely low maintenance, like they are wildflowers and things. I know the Navasink Garden Club, their crew does the pots downtown and the maintenance of those. If there is maintenance not needed for these plantings, who would be facilitating?
Danielle is going to be mostly responsible. Now, we didn't discuss the Navasink Garden Club, but we certainly can bring them into the fold if that's something that, I don't know how large the club is, but if that's something that they'd like to contribute to, I am sure that Danielle would love their assistance.
Yeah.
But Danielle is going to be primarily responsible for maintaining it as well.
Great.
Yeah, I think Ingeborg has a connection.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, my aunt's on that. They like doing it. There's a lot of people there. They take a lot of pride in the downtown. So even if it's not their place to be a part of it, I think just letting them know that this is happening, maybe they'll want to volunteer and help.
Yeah, that's a good point. We could reach out for sure.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
More flowers,
That
hooray.
was easy. Good, Jimmy.
Therefore, can you tell me where are we with about the four-way stop on Dr. Parker and?
I think we just asked the ordinance, or we'll introduce the ordinance tonight, and so I think we just gotta wait till the next meeting and then we're good to go.
And that's the 26th?
Yeah,
Okay.
nice work, Timmy.
Oh. Well, I can say something right here now. The next, Councilman Bell, you said that the foot of one sunset is just going to be capped. But I'm going like this, the newspaper says it's going to be apart. So I just want to know who is lying. Now, usually the newspaper don't lie.
They don't vote either.
They don't lie.
They don't vote.
They do tell the truth.
They don't vote.
But my thing is, no, the newspaper, I'm just saying, the newspaper don't lie. From my knowledge, they don't lie. So I just want to know. It's gonna be capped.
Newspapers don't vote. The council decides what happens down at.
So can you speak into the mic, this way the people in the back can hear you too? I would appreciate that very much.
My apologies. It's been a long night. It's the council who votes and decides what happens down at the Sunset Dome,
And
not the newspapers.
also, but my thing is, you say you care about the kids, but you're supposed to care about everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
On agenda items.
This is for, yeah, for anything.
Good evening. My name is William Phillips, and I'm a resident of Eatontown, actually. And I'm a member of the Eatontown Lions Club and Lions Club International. And I promise you, I'm not here to talk about cannabis or ask for any expenditure. What I want to do is, it's my role with the Lions Club. I'm what they call a zone chair, which means I have oversight responsibilities for several clubs. And it would be 8 clubs that are in this area: Middletown, Atlantic Highlands, Oceanport, West Long Branch, Eatontown, Neptune, and Red Bank. And I wanted to come specifically to talk to you about the Red Bank Lions Club. As some of you may know, that club has been in existence for over 100 years. However, it is on its last breath at this point. That club is down to only 3 members. So my job, or my hope, is to rehabilitate that club and get some new membership into that club so that it can do some service projects within their local area. And what I wanted to do is work with the borough government, if possible, to identify some projects that can be done by volunteers with various and assorted skill levels. And I was going to try to get clubs, members from surrounding clubs to come to Red Bank to participate in those projects. And hopefully, if we can get some local citizens to work with us, hopefully those citizens locally will become involved in the kinds of service work that we do within our own communities. And hopefully they will be willing, some of them at least, to join the Red Bank Lions Club, and by that, get that club back on a sound footing. And by the way, for any projects that the Lions Club sponsors or is involved in, we are insured by our organization for $1 million. So there's no liability for the projects that we do either. So, and I've left several voice messages for the borough. And Mr. Mayor, I even sent a letter to you back in January. I don't know if you received it. I have not gotten a single response, and I'm trying to just help.
I apologize if I was a little overwhelmed in January when I just was seeing it for the first time, but it sounds great and I would love to sit down with you. And if you can stick around, we're almost done. Maybe we'll just talk after for a minute and exchange some info.
All right.
Do the Lions still collect eyeglasses?
Yes.
Yes.
The thing, we recycle eyeglasses, we do vision screenings in the school systems, and we do it for senior citizens in my town. And in Eatontown, we are also establishing an all accessible park that the Lions raise the funds to provide, so that families with kids that have disabilities can come to the park and do all the activities their siblings might be able to do.
Do you have a minimum age for joining the Lions?
We have some high school clubs that are basically high school students, but once you reach the age of 18 or older, you can be a Lion.
Has there been any coordination with RBR for the Lions?
Well, no, my commitment is to try to reestablish the club here. So the existing 3 members in this club gave me permission to give it the old college try. So that's what I'm trying to do is basically see if there's any interest in other volunteers in town coming under the auspices of the Lions Club.
Yeah, well, I think specifically with the eye, that's the one thing I've always known about Lions is that with the glasses, that's.
Yeah, vision is a primary thing that we do, but we also get involved in environmental projects, juvenile diabetes and that sort of thing.
Maybe we have multiple optometrists in town and people with glasses and think maybe they would be interested in joining and since it's a cause that they can get involved in, so.
You don't have to have any special skill, except you want to help your community.
Absolutely.
All that we ask.
I'm just thinking maybe we can get them, so I'm here to help. I'm Kate, if you want to email me, I'm Kate Trigiano.
I'll get you information afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, and we're all happy to help, and thank you for coming out tonight.
Since I couldn't get a response otherwise, I figured I'd better show up here. Thank you.
Anyone else for the public comment?
Good evening, everyone. It's nice and early. I just wanted to say a couple of things.
Name and address.
Oh, Mimone Payton Christian, 15 Marion Street, I think. One, I wanted to say thank you to the council in regards to your unified commitment to affordable housing. I know we'll be back, and I'm just happy to see and say that there is no room for politics when it comes to things like affordable housing. So I thank you all for not allowing politics to get in the mix of the discussion. And I also want to encourage you all to take that spirit and spread it out across some other areas too, please. The residents, sometimes it's disheartening to see some of the politics creep up, but that's a side note. But I wanted to also acknowledge our new DPW director, Terrence Walton. He has been a dedicated employee for the borough for many years, and it's nice to see someone promoted from within the ranks. And so congratulations to a Red Bank born and raised individual who will be heading up one of our departments. And I think that's it. I won't keep you anymore tonight. I did have just a quick question, and it's probably directed to the chief. And I've asked this a few times and I don't know the answer. So I just wanted to know the status of the body cams for the town. I know there were delays and so forth.
We've had them.
We have them, I believe they were fully deployed in the fall of this past year of 22.
Okay.
There was about a 1 year backlog of manufacturing, but we've had them since about September, October, I believe.
Okay, that's wonderful. It's great protection for the officers and for the residents. And I think it allows transparency in our community. And I think that people will see that it helps more than it hurts. So thank you for following through with the law, but
They've been working out pretty well so far, a couple of glitches, but basically good.
thank you.
Thank you. Ready?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilman. P.O. Box 2074, Red Bank. Couple of things, Mayor and Council. Have any of y'all been out to Asbury Avenue, at the end of Asbury Avenue past the landfill? I don't think so. Well, years ago, it was a dump down there, still down there. The borough used to go out there and dump. They stopped it. It goes all the way over to 34. Just mountains and everything of garbage. They didn't even come out there to cap that. I mean, it's bigger than what's down here. They didn't even bother that. It's fines up, keep off private property, no trespassing. So y'all talk about down for the sunset, what the councilmen want to do, this and that. I just want to know, when Stan Sill was here and you was here, Councilman Zippers, Riverview paid the borough for that boat ramp that Riverview added on. Where's that money at right now? You're supposed to be having a boat ramp built on the west side. Ain't nothing being built. So if you're gonna cap the landfill down there, why don't you put a boat ramp down there? And blacktop for the people. A lot of people got boats around here. They have to go to Middletown. They have to go to Little Silver or Long Branch to put their boat in, just to go out in the neighbor St. River. So why don't you put a boat ramp down there? Riverview paid for it. Stanley said the money was in escrow. Where's it at now? You was a councilman at the time. They wasn't here.
I was not a councilman.
When Stanley was here, you was a councilman when Stanley was here. I brought it up several times at a council meeting.
Yeah, but that predates me by a long shot.
The money is supposed to be in the escrow. And why we can't use it? Put a boat ramp on the west side. Why we can't use it?
It predates me. I've heard legend that this money exists, but I haven't seen it myself. I can check with the CFO.
Well, I would ask Tom if that money is still in escrow, and then it'd be able.
It has been probably 25, maybe 30 years at least since that program was filled in.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else? Made a motion to close the public comments.
So moved.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Anyone here, including Angela, have any comments to add? You can go around the horn. Start with Angela. You have anything to add?
No, not tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Jacqueline.
Hello, everyone. Just want to say that we had a great day yesterday and dedicating the senior lobby to former councilperson Thomas E. Hintelman. He was the longest serving council member in Red Bank. And it was really wonderful to be in the senior center and actually see seniors in there enjoying it. I also want to just make a comment because I did read the ordinance for the cannabis early this morning. And there are references to diversity and sustainability on page 2. So there is some, thought and focus on those 2 areas for people who are seeking a license.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Environmental Commission will be holding their Green Fair on April 20th. It'll be at the Red Bank Middle School. There'll be lots of vendors there, lots of community groups present. If you'd like to find out more information, I believe the Borough of Red Bank's Facebook page posted it, as well as the Red Bank Environmental Commission's page. And I know that the Environmental Commission is very proud with the partnership that they have fostered with the schools here. Thank you.
No comments for this evening.
No comments, Mayor, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to add to Declan's comment about what a grand dedication ceremony we had in the main lobby at the newly refurbished senior center last evening. I think Maureen Hinselman said it best yesterday. This was the town that Tommy Hinselman loved so much. He gave 30 years of his life to serving on council, working with both parties, and was instrumental in securing the riverfront property that the senior center still occupies. So thanks, Tom Hinselman. I also wanted to mention the fact that I met with Gary Watson today. He delivered me a copy of the Public Utilities Management Plan and Report. I want to thank Mr. Watson for his service to the Red Bank community and especially to the borough. The chief should have copies of that and will be distributing them to each member of council. It's a very poignant summation as it covers a broad range of topics that detail the inefficiencies currently found in the department. Mr. Watson said, and I quote, many of the inefficiencies were a result of little or no management and unsuitable employees tasked with leadership duties they were not capable of performing over the past several years. So I cannot thank Gary enough for his assistance in creating what will become a roadmap to the future for the Department of Public Utilities and the borough. And then I also spoke to Mrs. Cash, Jean Cash, to inform her that the plaque commemorating her late husband, John Cash, the long-serving chair of the Red Bank Planning Board, was mounted by the DPU staff at the pavilion at Eastside Park. She asked that we not do anything to mark the commemoration, as John wouldn't want any fanfare. So we'll respect her wishes. She said she would quietly walk her grandchildren and her children to the pavilion, show them the memorial. She felt it was a fitting tribute and was grateful that the borough recognized his contribution to a town that he was proud to call home. Please take a walk by the plaque and see it's a simple reminder of a man who gave up himself to a town that he loved. And I just wanted to thank the chief for your efforts in making it a reality and to the DPW staff for doing such a fine job in mounting it out of the sun so it'll last a little bit longer. Lastly, the parking and DPU committees will meet the week of April 24th. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Mayor, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I also want to, thank Gary for his support and leadership and being able to develop someone who could take on that role in just a little over three months. I really appreciate all of the work that you've done, Gary, and it was a real pleasure meeting with you. And I hope our paths cross again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that, Gary. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Very responsive. As soon as I call with an issue, boom, you jumped on it, put the team in action. And thank you for coming out of retirement and helping us get things back on track here. And I just want to remind everybody, as always, I have open office hours every Monday from 4 to 6. So if you have anything you want to talk about, you can try and just stop by, maybe with somebody, but you can always make an appointment with the clerk's office and I'd be happy to sit down and try and help.
And then Mayor, Gary's still on the line. I didn't know whether he wanted to say anything.
Yeah, you want to take a final bow? You're on mute.
Now, am I on?
Yeah, there you are.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. I want to thank the mayor and council for having the faith and trusting me to try to do a decent job in this report. As I noted in my letter to you, and as many of us are, I'm born and raised in Red Bank. My heart and soul is in Red Bank. I may live in South Carolina, but my home is Red Bank, New Jersey. So it's an honor for me to be able to come back at this age and do something that I hope will be a template for the new director to help get the department back on track. I know in my report, when you read it, if you don't really read it, it could be kind of, oh my goodness, this is not good. That's not what we're saying. The department is a good department and they will do well as long as they have strong leadership. And I think Mr. Walton is the right guy for the job. Obviously, you agree with me. And I look forward for all of us to have some good years in Red Bank with Terrence at the helm. But thank again to you guys. It's all on you. You made it happen. And I got to reflect on a comment that Councilmember Trigiano said a couple of meetings ago. We were doing some project and she made the comment that I trust in the decisions of my department heads. And that is pivotal. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I get a second?
Mayor, just check with Dan if there's a need for executive session. I'm not sure.
That's not Dan, that's somebody else.
Dan's there too. Well, Dan's picture is there anyway.
They're both there, but here he is.
You're on mute, Dan.
I'm here.
Dan, is there a need for exec tonight?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.